just took the budget books.
Let me tell you, yesterday was not fun. I drove from Lake City with my mother-in-law and 2 dogs. The roads.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
I'm sorry.
Children.
Little humor.
Good evening, everyone. We are going to start the Resource Management and Administration Committee meeting. It's a subcommittee of the full Board of Commissioners. However, from time to time, these committees can act on the full authorization of the Board of Commissioners if they choose to do so, if something is of importance that needs to get passed fairly quickly. So I will make that mention. If you have a cell phone, including myself, if you can put it on silent and vibrate, that would be very helpful. And we will begin first of all, I want to thank everyone that's come out this evening for this meeting. I know it's the weather is not conducive to good driving. It is very icy out, snowy out, cold and miserable. And for all of you to come out tonight really speaks loudly of how you feel about your ability to get involved in government and speak your opinion, and we do appreciate that. So we will start that meeting right now, and the first order is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could rise, and we'll have Commissioner Max Bauer lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If we could have the clerk do the roll call attendance, please.
Lathrop?
Here.
Lemkool?
Here.
Max Bauer?
Here.
Rennie?
Here.
Thomas?
Yep.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Inman?
Here. We will now move on to the approval of the Resource Management Administration Committee minutes of November 13th, 2013.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the regular minutes from the November 13th meeting as sent, distributed.
It's moved by Wheelock and seconded by Commissioner Rennie. Is that correct? All right. Discussion on the minutes. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes. Well, that clears. The next item is our first public comment, and that first public comment will not be limited in time or length, other than per individual, as our guidelines have. So those of you that are here and have taken the time to come, we will make the time to hear from you, as long as you abide, if you could, by the guidelines of the time per individual comments. So if the clerk could read the guidelines, please.
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his name or her name and address. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions, if any. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. The chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak. Public comment shall be solicited during the 2 public comment periods noted in Rule 5.4, Order of Business. However, public comment will generally be received at any time during the meeting regarding a specific topic currently under discussion by the board. Members of the public wishing to comment should raise their hand or pass a note to the clerk in order to be recognized, and shall not address the board until called upon by the chairperson.
Okay, you have heard the guidelines regarding public comment. And again, I would like to remind you that if there's something specific on our agenda, you're welcome to stay, and we will allow public comment prior to the board taking action on those items if that is what you wish to do. However, you're more than welcome to speak about any topic of county government or anything on the agenda at this time. I want to remind you that we also have another time for public comment at the latter part of our meeting for those of you that would wish to stay. So we will now open public comment. Those of you that wish to speak, you can raise your hand. I will just call on you one by one. Bonnie.
Bonnie Sheely, Grand Traverse County Clerk, 4815 Lands End. The reason I'm here today is to give you some good news. I know you're in the middle of this whole budget crunch, and I wanted to let you know what I am doing in my office. I think you're all aware, but maybe not, that I have 3 offices in 3 locations. The reason that I have so many offices in so many locations is because in 2001, the State Court Administrator's Office split out part of Circuit Court and made a family court division. The only way we could do that is to create a whole nother family court records office, and it was located in the Hall of Justice. So I have 1 court office in the Hall of Justice and 1 court office in the Circuit Court Records Office. Our judges implemented an electronic filing and court records management and imaging. And due to their wonderful idea to bring that to Grand Traverse County, I now have the opportunity to merge 2 of my offices together. This will create quite a savings for Grand Traverse County because when I merge these offices together, I am not going to fill one of my office clerk positions. The gal has taken another job with another part-time job, so I am not going to fill that position. I am totally eliminating that out of my budget, which will save around $50,000 with wages and benefits combined. So I'm cutting that out. This is all happening pretty quickly because she's leaving me sooner than I thought she was going to. So I am going to be moving these 2 offices together, hopefully in January. This is going to make it much more efficient for my staff, much more customer service oriented, because people don't have to try to figure out which courthouse to go to file something, depending on what it is. They will go to 1 spot now. And like I said, it is going to save quite a bit of money out of my budget for this next year. So I wanted to let you know that I am doing that. And in closing, I wanted to also tell you that I'm not the only one that's looking at their budget and trying to find ways to make it more efficient and cut costs. I know all the department heads are, all the elected officials are, all the employees are. So we're doing it. We're doing what you want us to do. I was lucky that, this is just a great opportunity for me to move forward with. So that's all I had to say.
I thank you. And, this is exactly the kind of things that, if it is possible for department heads to do, that we were looking for in terms of input. And we thank you for coming and sharing this with us. I know Commissioner Rennie and Commissioner Lathrop have been focusing on, as new commissioners, some innovative things that we have not done in the past that could help save money within the county budget and our departments, and that we have not thought of as, senior commissioners or commissioners that have had some time on board. So we appreciate you coming in, reporting that, and making these statements.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Next, go ahead, come on up and get yourself introduced and your address, if you could, please.
Good evening. I'm Pete Zernhelt, 1613 Outer Drive West, Long Lake Township, Long Lake Peninsula. I'd like to speak to the budget issue. I've followed it in the papers, and as I understand it, there's 3 options before the commission, and that is either utilize some fund balance money for this coming year's budget, cut staff, or pass a bond proposal and get to level out the demands. I guess it's on insurance, is it?
On the defined benefit program.
Defined benefits, yes. So the first 2, as I see, first 2 solutions of just cut staff and to use fund balance will take care of maybe this year. It doesn't say what's going to happen next year.
Right.
You may find that your defined benefits program, I guess it's going to go up for several years and then come down. So you're going to have an unstable staffing situation if you, unless you somehow stabilize that. And this bond proposal, that I see it, is a way to stabilize the demands of the county for operations and to have a constant staffing level the fund balance, rating the fund balance maybe solves the first year, it doesn't solve subsequent years. The staff issue, cutting them, maybe solves this year, but it may be different next year because as the demand for the defined benefits program changes. So what I'm here to say, encourage this commission, is to take the route of the bond proposal, pass a bond, this bond to take care of, so we have a stable, known annual payment, which I think is like $3.5 million, is of that nature. Whereas the other routes are not going to be stable, and staffing is going to fluctuate, services are going to fluctuate. It's going to be a bad situation for the county and for the taxpayers, as I see it. So that's what I would like to encourage you to do.
All right, thank you very much for your opinion. Anyone else wish to speak at public comment? Yes, come on up. Name and
Andy Merrick,
address.
2875 East Railroad Avenue, Interlochen, Michigan. I'm here for two reasons. One, I want to announce that I'm going to be filing to run for Dick Thomas's seat as county commissioner in the upcoming election. It's been a tough decision. Mr. Thomas has done a great job. He's been on the board for a long time. He's also been involved with the local politics for a long time, and I really respect what he's done, but I think it's time for some changes. The issue that we're still dealing with the budget is one of those issues that some of the senior commissioners have been involved with the whole time along. I think it's time that we get some new eyes on this so that we can, instead of making short-term fixes, can make a long-term fix. The reason that we have this bond issue is one of the proposals is the fund balance or the money has not been put in to finance our retirement debt. So we don't have the money we're supposed to have in there now. So the money was being spent on other things. So now we've got to try to find money to pay for something that we should have had money put into the bank account prior to this point. It seems to me that we've got about a 3.5% budget shortfall. I think that as commissioners, you need to make a tough decision. And if I was sitting in Mr. Thomas's seat, I would recommend a 5% cut to each department, allowing the department heads to determine where the money came out of so that they can run their department how they feel needs to be ran. And then we don't have to borrow additional money, don't have to take money out of a fund balance to try to get through this year and hope that next year will be okay. I don't like the idea of taking money out of a rainy day fund or borrowing money for a long period of time to pay off a shorter period debt. I don't think that's a good idea, and I look forward to the upcoming election. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, ma'am, on the blue, and then we'll go with the one in the glasses. All right.
My name is Mary Laux. I live at 4011 Cedar Run Road in Traverse City. I'm here, just a couple of quick statements in support of the Easling Pool and maintaining the Grand Traverse County Parks and Rec. And I'd also like to just touch on the practices of paying commissioners per diem payments for attending meetings and health care. I think those practices should be done away with, and I think you could probably save a little money on the budget on those terms. So, thanks for listening.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you
Mary.
for coming tonight. Ma'am? If, just a point of order, if we could hold on any encouragement of applauses and stuff like that, to be respectful for both sides, people's viewpoints, and then we can get through public comment a little faster. Okay.
Hi, my name is Kathy Coffin Sheard. I reside at 415 West 7th Street, Traverse City. Don't have my paper here today. Shooting from the hip for a little bit. I'll speak from the heart. I volunteered at the water safety class today with 60 freshmen, young adults, from the TCAP school district, Central High School. And I will let you know that there were 3 kids there that if they would have fallen off a dock, they would have walked off a shelf, they would not be here tomorrow. That hour-and-a-half training session, that pool, listening to the county coroner talk or the medical examiner talk, a volunteer from the Coast Guard, and then having 6 of our staff work with these kids. If you've never seen the whites of kids' eyes when they're starting to go down or they're uncomfortable in water, that's what I saw today. That's one reason we should keep this pool. We should also keep our rec department and support our programs and services that our county deserves, our taxpayers deserve, and we as a whole, as a community, should continue to support that. I have to just dissuade a couple of comments that I've heard previously about the bay, swimming 6 months in the bay. You can't swim 6 months in the bay. I run open water swims with 2 lifeguards in the bay. I swim open water swims. You can swim about 2.5 months comfortably in the bay if you're going to spend about 20 minutes in the bay in and out. You're not swimming in the bay. You're not training in the bay. You're not going to advance your health and fitness completely just by having 2 months out of the year in the water. I just am continually believe that, you know, our role and our continued path and your decision is very hard to continue to support our programs and support what you have in front of you as we as people of this community deserve. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We will go with you, yes, yourself, and then the lady in the red next, and then we will come over to the gentleman in purple.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Jody Mackey. I live at 1058 Washington Street in Traverse City. I'm also an educator for TCAPS. I'm here to talk about the Easling Pool as well. I just moved into the city about 2 years ago. I used to live more towards Kingsley, and to be honest, didn't have a lot of affiliation with the pool, although I did obviously have my son take his swimming lessons there 18 years ago, which was, you know, an important step, obviously, that I know almost every parent I know utilizes that pool for swim lessons for their kids. But since I've moved into the city, one of the first things I did was get involved with the pool, you know, for exercise, for fitness, for camaraderie, for a variety of reasons. And I've found a great home and a niche there with the Masters Swim Group. I was pretty shocked to hear that, you know, that we're considering eliminating something in a community, first of all, that is all about water. We obviously want water safety to be a massive priority in our community. We have only this pool. When I first started looking into swimming and improving my own personal swimming and getting lessons, we had the Park Place as an option to swim at, although no instruction. That is no longer available. Our YMCA that I know is coming, God knows when, whatever, is very, you know, not centrally located. And to me, the thought that we would not have a pool in a central location in a bay community with 2 high school swim teams that don't have a swimming facility seems asinine, to be quite frank. In addition, I came to the city and started paying a lot more taxes than I used to towards the woods. And, you know, there are many benefits to those taxes that I pay, one of which I have always thought of as that beautiful, amazing parks and recreation system that we have over at the Civic Center. I know that there are times that I have heard that the pool, you know, the pool's vacant, the pool is empty. I was curious to see that when I started swimming. The pool is almost never empty. You all need to study up and stop in. I see the elderly, I see kids, young kids, I see teens, tweens, and then a massive adult group all utilizing this pool every day of the week. To me, again, in a bay community, this seems like a really bad idea. And I have to tell you, as an educator and just as a parent in general, with the recent teen deaths we've had related to swimming, it just seems like crazy. To me, I would almost be thinking we would be talking about trying to encourage more outreach using that pool to get kids adequately trained to swim. Thank you.
Okay. The red.
I'm also speaking in support of the Easling Pool.
Your name and the address, please.
Yep. Courtney Greening, 19150 Birchview Trail, Lake Ann, Michigan. I've been a resident of Grand Traverse County for at least 25 years of my life. Growing up, the Easling Pool became a second home to me. My connection with this facility began when I was 5 years old, when my parents signed me up for swim lessons. When I was 9 years old, I joined the age group team. Then I joined the high school team when I was 13, and I swam freshman through senior year. I am now 30 years old, and I have recently reconnected with the sport of swimming as both a coach and an athlete. I have been coaching the Traverse City Breakers 8 and under team, and I am a member of the Master Swim team. I am also a physical therapist, and my involvement in this profession is to promote health and wellness. As a coach, I represent the kids. Childhood obesity is a rising health issue in our country, and it affects 1 in 3 children with long-lasting physical and psychological deficits that can follow them into adulthood. Research shows that programs such as open swim lessons, participating on the swim team, promote physical activity, they reduce risk factors of disease, they improve overall well-being and gains in self-confidence and higher self-esteem. As a therapist, I also represent the geriatric population. Adults aged 65 and over have been shown to be one of the most sedentary age groups. Recent research also shows that programs such as water aerobics, aqua walking, jogging, lap swimming offers a low-impact environment that promotes good health, decreased risk of falls, improved cardiovascular, pulmonary health, improved sense of community, and helps to maintain their independence as they age. I encourage each of you to think of a resource or a component of your life that you rely on because it enriches your recreational, personal, and/or professional lifestyle. Think of a choice you make or an activity you choose to participate in because it contributes positively to your health and overall well-being. What if a small group of people had the capability to take that away? What effect would that have on your lifestyle? What if the alternative option was not affordable, accessible, and therefore not an option at all? Our pool serves a diverse group of people that currently choose and will continue to choose to utilize this pool. There has been a long-lasting need for a second facility to accommodate our growing community. It's about providing a space that fosters community connection and promotes healthy living starting at the youngest of ages and continuing throughout an individual's lifetime. It's about creating a space that is viable, accessible, and affordable, and a space that people choose to come back to because of the role individuals and programs have had on their lives. I feel I have come full circle with my involvement in the programs offered by this pool. I have these programs to thank for my appreciation of fitness, for incredible friendships that offer social and emotional support and a special connection to this community. The Easling Pool may not be a resource that you utilize. You may not be knowledgeable in all of the programs offered, but my recreational, personal, and professional lifestyles rely on the continued livelihood of this facility. Instead of closing the pool, let's think of ways to increase opportunities to utilize the facility. It is a facility that has amazing potential to reach out to more people and affect their lives in a positive way. Look to encourage and support those in leadership positions to be creative and promote the use of this community resource. Choose to support our community pool because it is valuable.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gentlemen in the...
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jim Johnson. I'm a resident of Leelanau County.
Okay.
And I'm an annual senior member following the 3 ladies prior to me.
All right, welcome. Welcome to Grand Traverse County.
Thanks, Larry. That's what Home Depot and Marsh says to me and everyone else all the time. No, I'm here to echo what the 3 gals prior to me, and especially what the young lady just referred to as an untapped market. There were quite a group of us about a year ago, April, that were kicked out of the Park Place, and we had quite a community there of swimmers, exercise, stationary bikes, ellipticals, treadmills. And that's something I think that really should be considered possibly as an add-on to our facility. There certainly is room over there, and I think there's a huge untapped market. And I know just from myself and my fellow seniors and the folks I play golf with and socialize with, that this asset could really be used even more than it is now. I count on it tremendously for my exercise and to keep mobile. There was talk that maybe, gee whiz, it would be nice if we could maybe put in a couple of treadmills, maybe put in a hot tub over in that cage, and let's market it to seniors. And then what the lady said about the varsity athletes. We've got 2 great high schools here, and those kids don't have a pool. And every consideration should be made to keep that thing open, and if necessary, maybe form some kind of citizens group to give input and ideas. So for what it's worth, I'm just here to voice my support as a outside visiting senior.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
Thanks. I saw this spirit from the pool people, I call you the pool people, before. I don't want to close the pool. I want to keep it open, but we're having a terrible financial crunch. Ideas like that can help us. I think it's wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome, Dr. Dan. Yeah, there's, I think, a lot of potential, and I was behind a grassroots movement at the Park Place for us seniors, and I had 180 signatures in a couple of weeks. Of course, they're a big company. They're operated out of South Dakota. They didn't listen to us. They want to do their own thing.
Innovative ideas like that, I think that's what this county needs.
Well, we got a wonderful asset, and you just the shutters, I mean, I get scared just thinking that.
Very cool, thank you.
You would want to close it.
All right. Thank you very much for coming.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Appreciate you driving in.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Anyone else wish? Yes, sir. Come on up. Just as a reminder on our rules. I know last time you were really kind of into it. So
I tried timing that a few times, so I
All
try
right.
to keep it down. Christopher Radu, 2745 Green Meadows Drive. You've heard me use the term arbitration. Last week after I left, Mr. Bott disagreed, but I would point you to the memo that you all got for the 2014 recommended budget summary. In there, page 5, it talks about, as stated, and this is at the bottom of the paragraph, all of you have this in a copy of your budget book, I understand. As stated earlier, the county has been considering the sale of pension obligation bonds to finance its unfunded liability. If you skip it down a little lower, it says the lower payment would result from, number 1, stretching out the payments to 20 years, and number 2, from the arbitrage on the difference between the cost of the bonds and the expected return on the investment over a 20-year period. But make no mistake, issuing these pension bonds is worse than an arbitrage. Don't let anyone fool you. It's not refinancing, as it's either Ross Richards or Ross Richardson said last week. This is actually a leveraged bet on your part. As of December 31st, 2012, Grand Traverse County pension was 49.1% funded, which makes it one of the 15% worst funded in the state. The can has already been kicked. It's been kicked for over 10 years. To close this gap, it's now being proposed to borrow $46 million today and invest it with MERS, in fact, doubling the county's assets with them overnight when markets are at record highs. Commissioner Thomas, you expressed concern with this last week, and you're right to be concerned. In exchange for the money today, taxpayers will have 20 years to pay an additional $23.2 million in interest, or 2/3 of 1 year's budget for Grand Traverse County. You have a lot of people here complaining about some cuts, but just imagine eliminating 8 months of services in Grand Traverse County. That's what you're asking for in interest. But it gets even better. The original proposal in August of this year had us paying $690,000 in additional costs, so to borrow $46 million for 20 years is going to cost the taxpayer almost an additional $24 million, meaning that in order to kick the can a little farther, it'll cost us $70 million total dollars. Don't worry, it still gets better. If the fund does not return 8%, which I've come here twice and told you why it won't, then we as taxpayers will owe even more money. And all you have to do is ask MERS, who sent you guys a memo on September 12th of this year regarding pension obligation bonds. If the county is considering fully funding the unfunded liability using pension obligation bonds, it is very important to fully understand the implications of such an action. It is particularly important to understand that if future financial experience is less favorable than assumed, additional liability may emerge even after fully funding the liability at this time. Fully funding the current pension gap does not guarantee there will be no employer contribution requirements in the future. So unlike refinancing a mortgage, which is what some people try to refer to this as, where payments are known in advance and the payments don't increase. With this plan, there is no guarantee the taxpayer won't be on the hook for money in 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years. No one really knows. This is not a fixed payment schedule. People that say that, it's disingenuous to say it, unless, of course, they're willing to tell you what the returns in the markets are going to be for the next 20 years. This is not smoke and mirrors. This is reality. For solutions, do your homework. Sonny, last week you said you do your homework. I wonder, before I told all of you last week that MERS was optional, and I saw about 5 of you write it down when I mentioned that, how many of you knew that that was a possibility and that 16 municipalities had dropped out of MERS over the last 20 years? I suggest that you look into getting away from MERS, privatizing this obligation with Prudential like General Motors did, outside of bankruptcy. Last week, Mr. Bott, you said they unloaded the pension obligations in bankruptcy, but that is not accurate. You need to consider this because this is a private market solution, and after all, it's a conservative solution, and all of you are Republicans, from what I understand. Number 2, wait and see what happens with the pension obligations in Detroit. If debt is debt, like Judge Rhodes said in last week's ruling, then there is no reason to borrow more money to close this gap. Look at the county balance sheet in whole. In reality, the precious $8 million fund balance that you guys talk about is dwarfed by the can-kicking $46 million pension fund debt that you have. In reality, you should be operating this budget like you have negative $38 million to work with, and you're not. And the last suggestion is, take some medicine, make some cuts. I started going through the budget just for a fun exercise and found some interesting things. Item 745, which is central records, uniforms and accessories. The 2014 proposed budget's $1,500, yet in 2012 only $904 was used, and so far this year in 2013 it's $650. I'm curious, why does that have to go up by 66%?
Mr.
Chairman, that's 5 minutes.
Yeah, you have to wind it up.
Okay.
You can wind it up.
I don't think you guys have exhausted all the options that are available to you, and while I don't like using the general fund balance either, I think it's a stopgap measure that gives you a little bit of time to make the right decision, because what you're doing is taking a liability that would be 10 years, making it 20, and costing us 2/3 of 1 year's of operating's budget. And the only place that looks worse than that right now is Chicago, where it would take 5 years of zero services and 100% revenue collection in order to fill the gap.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you for coming.
Thanks. Chris?
Okay, anyone else in the audience wish to speak at this time? Yeah, yes, young lady, come on up.
Good evening. My name is Cassandra Howe, and I live at 508 East State Street. I just moved to Traverse City in September to serve as the senior minister at a local congregation, and this is my first time in northern Michigan and my first experience of winter with a capital W. So my first thought is just how essential a local pool is to the mental and physical health of the larger community when it is snowing so much for so many months of the year. That way of getting exercise is really important. And my second thought comes more from, I guess maybe a faith reflection about our responsibility as a larger community to the populations that are less cared for, so the orphans, the young, the old. In my last 24 hours of swimming at that pool, I think I went, maybe it's 48 hours. I was there twice, and the first time, the program after I was done swimming was a program for kids with disabilities. And I don't see the YMCA doing things like that. The next day I was there, and as I was getting dressed in the women's locker room, there was probably 3 young teenage girls giving each other support over an issue, and so that positive activity, a place to have positive activity and to foster community among these populations is so important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak at this time? Yes, ma'am, that just raised your hand.
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Sue Fry. I live at 414 East State Street, and I, too, am here in support of the pool. There are just so many different aspects that we've heard a variety of. From a personal perspective, I joined the pool 2 or 3 years ago in the Master Swim program, and it has brought, you know, so much to my life, both physical fitness, social, all kinds of different things. The thing the one thing that I keep thinking about when I think about the thought of this pool not being there is not so much even personal, you know, losing that facility, is that I can't believe a community like this would let something like that happen when it's just such an obvious need in any community. I came from a community where every school, every middle and every high school had one. And it seems like such a basic necessity to development of children and safety and, you know, just, I mean, there's just so many aspects to it. I really encourage you, you know, I couldn't even really imagine that this would go this far, that it was on the chopping block, the amount that we would give up in community involvement and safety and just so much that I really encourage you to make the right decision here.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming this evening. Someone else? Going once. Going twice. Going 3 times. Okay, there will be time for public comment again at the end of the meeting. If there's something on the agenda that you want to talk about, please get my attention at that time. So we will close the first public comment. For those of you that spoke, thank you for coming. Appreciate your interest in coming and going through the weather conditions to get here. And you're welcome to stay through the meeting or exit, whatever you wish to do. We will now move on to the approval of tonight's agenda. Before we do that, Mr. Administrator, do you have any additions?
I do. We have 2 grant awards from the State Court Administrator's Office.
Okay.
For the district court. I also would like to add to the closed session short negotiations update and another discussion on pending litigation, something I need to make the board aware of.
Okay. Okay, and we will put the 2 grant awards under new business. And in the closed session, we'll just expand those to what the administrator has already explained. So we need to move. Anybody else have an addition to the agenda? Commissioner Rennie.
I would like to add to the closed session a review of the administrator's evaluation.
That would have to be, that the administrator has to request a closed session by law to talk about his performance evaluation in closed session. The board cannot talk about closed session, the administrator's evaluation in closed session without his consent. You're more than welcome to add it to the agenda.
Not if he doesn't ask for it.
No.
I have not heard anything about this, so I'm not sure what needs to be said.
Further discussion, that's all, about some of the results, that's all. I thought a closed session was the best place to do it.
Besides, we approved it.
And we did discuss it and approve the, our satisfaction with the review. Are you willing to speak about it in an open session, or?
No.
Okay. Does the administrator wish to go in closed session to discuss performance evaluation?
Not this week.
Okay. All right. Is it something that, Commissioner Rennie, that you can meet personally with Commissioner Benda on, or would you want the full board involved?
It's really more involved with the board.
Okay, all right.
That's why I thought the closed session would be a good venue.
All right.
Than about the administrator, actually.
Okay, all right. Okay, so we have a suggestion by the administrator to add the 2 grants under new business and the addition of the various updates that the administrator has outlined. So we need an approval we need a motion to approve the agenda as presented and as amended.
So
Commissioner Lathrop?
Yep.
All right, moved by yourself?
Pardon?
Are you agreeing to that?
Yeah.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Lathrop, seconded by Commissioner Thomas to approve the agenda as amended. I think we should do a roll call vote on this one.
Lemkool,
Yeah.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Runny,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yep.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Inman.
Yes. Okay, we have an agenda. We will now move on to the consent calendar, and for those of you in the audience, these are usually items that we think don't require a lot of discussion, and we just have one vote on the approval of them. So we read them, and the board and the public has an opportunity to pull any of them off for further discussion. So would the clerk read the consent calendar as presented in our agenda?
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed therefrom and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file or approval, is approved by a single committee action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive and file. 1, Road Commission report and 2014 proposed project list. B, approval. 1, fair housing resolution planning.
Okay, it's a relatively short consent calendar today. Does any member of the public wish to pull any of those items off for further discussion? Seeing none, do any of the board members wish to pull an item for further discussion? Commissioner Rennie?
A1, B1, if there's someone here from planning.
All right, so we'll just pull the whole consent calendar. All right, we'll put those under items to be pulled and discussed after the consent calendar. So we will not go for a vote on the consent calendar. There was no special order of business, so we will move on to items removed from the consent calendar. And I will call on Commissioner Rennie on item 6A, receive and file Road Commission report and 014 proposed project list. Commissioner Rennie, you have the floor.
Mr. Cook?
He's just going to try to talk you out of your tie.
It is festive.
Pretty cool.
Oh, I have a slew of them. Thank you. Jim Cook, Grand Traverse County Road Commission.
Jim, I would like to compliment you on your 2014 project list. I think it addresses what we had talked about going into it. I love the corridor approach. I love how you spread it out. And I think a lot of the constituency is very happy with what you've done so far. Now, we have a situation out on Traeger Road and Scout Camp Road, East Bay Township. I've been going to meetings and I've been hearing about it for a number of months. Now, I would like your take on that problem and what you think the best out would be for everybody.
Okay, just maybe to bring everybody up to speed, Scout Camp and Traeger Road are they're gravel roads out in the, is that Lake Rennie area?
Hopefully.
Fast Lake.
But they're very typical of Grand Traverse County where, they were probably cabins at one time, and over the years they've developed into, full-time residences and people come and go. And so, probably 10 years ago or maybe longer, the people that lived out there kind of wondered why they didn't have a paved road and why is this gravel road in such poor shape and things like that. And basically, you have to kind of go back in time, but back in the 30s, there were a lot of roads that were turned over to road commissions that didn't meet any standard at all. They, again, they may have been better than a trail, and may have had gravel on them at one time, but that's kind of what Scout Camp and Traeger Road are. They're part-time roads that were converted into full-time roads, and over the years, the road commission, has and continues to maintain that road, which we would typically do as far as grading and snow maintenance and things like that. But the issue really has come to the point where the residences out there approached us and wanted to pave the road. And that would be fine, and they had gotten together and talked about a special assessment and paving a road, and they acknowledged right up front that this road won't ever meet the requirements of the road commission. It doesn't meet any standard. but we'd like to pave it and have you accept it. And so our response, and this was close to a year ago, was, we think that'd be a very nice road. One good option would be to pave it and make it a private road, because unless you can meet our standard, we really can't take it over. There's liability issues because the geometrics of the road are not proper. The road is narrow. There's a lack of drainage. There are just a lot of issues with the road. So one thing that we have offered is to treat it just like any other gravel road that we've done in the county. A good example would be Hoosier Valley Road, where we have our current policy is when it comes to gravel roads, we have a partnership with the townships, and basically the townships, most townships will they'll pay for the cost of the material, the gravel. And what we do is we pay for the labor, the equipment, and we go out and we place the gravel, but we also try to improve drainage, and we cut trees, and we make it into as good a gravel road as it can possibly be. And so this has been going on, again, almost a year. The project is located in East Bay Township, and East Bay Township, unlike other townships that we've worked with that fully fund the cost of the gravel, East Bay Township, their current policy is they only fund 10% of a project. And so typically they do special assessments and they'll pay 10% of that cost. And so I think at one time the residences were pretty content with the idea of doing a special assessment for paving, and then they were content to maybe do something with gravel, but I think at this point, I think they're upset with the township. They feel the township should contribute more. Our investment from the road commission is about $80,000. The cost of the material is about $25,000. So I think we're proposing to do more than our fair share. Again, we will go out and reconstruct the road. We will cut down trees. We'll create some areas with sunlight so the road can dry out, because that's one of the issues is it's very shaded, so it's always wet. And then we're also going to take care of drainage issues out there. So again, it's about $80,000 worth of equipment, labor, and materials on our part. And really, we're just waiting on the township to make a decision on how they're going to approach it.
Thank you very much. All right, good. Anything else? Commissioner Lemko.
Yeah, I don't see anything on here for Lafreniere Road, and I know that our county commission has talked about that. It's funny you should mention that. It's in the fine print. No, actually, our board approved last week. They approved our project list for 2014. And the one exception that they made is we have the projects split into three categories. One is federally and state-funded projects, which are pretty minimal every year. We have a section of projects that are millage-funded projects, which is about $3.5 million. And then we have another section or another portion of roads that are our general fund projects, which is about $1 million. And so our commissioners moved Lafreniere Road up from the general fund projects up into the millage road projects, which, depending on how the winter treats us this year, again, we started out the winter about a month early compared to last year. We'll have to cross our fingers and hope that we end much earlier than we did last year. But what we did is in the general fund projects, that's kind of our slop spot where if we have to cut anything, we'll cut from the general fund projects. We will not cut from the millage road project. So our commissioners had the foresight to move Lafreniere up to that group. So that's definitely on the list for 2014.
Commissioner Wheelock.
Well, I did note that Lafreniere Road is on the list, and it is in the millage roads project. I'm a little concerned about the asterisk. It says Lafreniere Road is a partnership project with the county and Garfield Township. I need to know from the chair that I'm sitting in tonight, I need to know what portion of that project is the county's responsibility.
Well, over the past year, we have talked with the county and Garfield Township about partnering on Lafreniere Road.
I understand that, but I'd still like to see how the split comes out on that partnership.
Yeah, well, originally we had talked about splitting the cost 3 ways. And I've actually scheduled a meeting and sent an invite to Dave and also to Chuck Korn to discuss how we are going to actually end up, partnering on that project.
The other point that I would make in the schedule, and it, it's certainly not any big deal as far as I'm concerned, but the South Long Lake Road projects that you're listing in the millage, both of those projects are in Green Lake Township, not Long Lake Township.
Oops.
Like I said, township lines, county lines aren't cement walls to me, but those 2 projects are both in Green Lake Township.
That's kind of like leaving out the green screw out of your service panel if you're having an electrical inspection.
Yeah. Something like that.
Commissioner
A little
Max,
shocking.
Commissioner Max Bauer.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to receive and file the Road Commission report and 2014 proposed project list.
Okay, motion by Max Bauer, seconded by Commissioner Lemkool to receive and file the Road Commission report and 014 budget project list discussion.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd just like to make one comment that I've heard from my neighbors talking about how well the Road Commission has been performing in the current weather conditions. And we just want to say thank you to you and your staff for a great job that you're doing on our roads. Thank you
very much.
And I would like to thank Commissioner Rennie for asking the question on this Taggart Road thing. Your representative there at East Bay is doing a fine job trying to answer as best he can the history, and I know there were previous agreements with previous boards, with previous administrators, and the residents in there are frustrated, I guess, with, from one theme to another, and so now they're calling commissioners that represent East Bay Township, and I guess that would be me and Charlie. So any event, and we've tried to explain that there is a bit of a separation between the Board of Commissioners and the Road Commission, and we don't want to micromanage you people. However, we do appoint the members, other than yourself. So whatever you can do to help facilitate that communication with East Bay Township and those residents would be helpful on our part. Okay?
Understood.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor to receive and file?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming this evening.
If you ever have any questions, please call me.
And thank you for clearing the road so everybody can come in.
Thank you.
Make a man.
All right. We now move on to the approval side of the consent calendar that was pulled. That is a fair housing resolution by planning. Is there someone here from planning? If not, one of the commissioners that are assigned to the planning commission could speak. Dean?
Well, if there are any questions, Jean has indicated why we need to do this. This is a compliance requirement of the grant funding, and rather than just somebody in that office who handles the grant to say, yes, we will, they want a formal resolution from the board, and she has done that, which is on page 12 of your packet. I did review it. Jean would have, she wanted to be here, but she had another commitment, and I volunteered for this assignment, so if there are any questions, I'll
Okay,
do my best to answer.
pleasure of the board.
Move for approval.
Moved by Commissioner Thomas, seconded by Commissioner Rennie, to approve the fair housing resolution as presented in our packet. Discussion.
Dean, what I was looking
Yes.
for is what can the average citizen do who thinks they may qualify for this type of benefit? How do they go find out if they do qualify? Where do they go?
Well, we do have information on our website under the Planning and Development Department, but the best thing to do would be to call the office and talk to either John or Jean or Virginia Coulter, and they will help anyone who wants to, review or see if they're eligible for this program or this grant funding.
Appreciate that.
All right, Commissioner
I
Wheelock.
guess the point, Charlie, and I can either print it off for you if I didn't. The Land Bank Authority handles all of these grant monies on your behalf through the County Housing Commission. And this morning, we got a report of 13 or 14 projects, something like that, that are currently underway, whether they're finished, whether they're pending, where Grand Traverse County has loaned money toward the rehabilitation, if you will, of some of these properties that people are living in, that they are generally below 50 or 60% of the average mean income in order to qualify. You know, what I would suggest to people is the first thing they do is to contact, you know, either the planning department through Jenny or someone, and find out first, before they fill out a multi-page application, find out whether they qualify financially, because 90% of the time, if people are rejected in the program, it's because they don't meet the financial requirements. And the paperwork that's involved in these MSHDA loans is extensive. So, you know, make sure that you're reasonably sure you're going to qualify. You know, we have had dozens of people fill out the whole application and get it all through, and then the first thing we find out is they don't qualify, and it's a lot of time and effort to make the application. If you know with a couple simple questions, we can determine that you aren't going to qualify.
And the planning office is the place to make that call?
Yes.
Thanks.
Any other questions by board members on the motion on the floor? I don't see any hands in the audience. So, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes. Okay, we will move on. That takes care of items removed from the consent calendar. We will move on to department action items. The first one is the Drain Commissioner. There's an interlocal agreement for regional storm water management. Kevin, welcome, and I'm supposing you need 3 chairs or 2 chairs?
Thank you for allowing me to be a thorn between 2 roses.
Get yourself introduced, Kevin, and
Yes.
those of you that will be joining you, if they could also get themselves introduced. Good evening. Thank you for attending.
Good evening.
And when you speak, if you could, the guy in the back keeps coming out if we don't throw the microphone in front of your mouth as you're talking, so share the microphone as you're going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening to all of you. My name is Kevin McEllier, your County Drain Commissioner, and with great pleasure, I'm pleased to introduce Linda Forwork, the Fife Lake Township Supervisor, as well as Lisa Leedy, the Fife Lake Village President. We are gathered here before you tonight to request your consideration of approving the signed intergovernmental agreements for regional stormwater management, which are included in your packets. In the spirit of the season, I'm here to help our neighbors with regard to their request on these intergovernmental agreements. Brief update, communities are now finding that the administration and enforcement of the stormwater ordinance is very costly and confusing, and they're asking our help. The unmitigated stormwater from areas altered by development pose a serious threat to the public's health, safety, and welfare of the citizens of Grand Traverse County. While the threat cannot be eliminated, it can be managed. Grand Traverse County has published effective guidelines for managing stormwater and has provided review of development plans for the municipalities of Grand Traverse County since 1992 using these guidelines. Currently, the prosecuting attorney of Grand Traverse County and myself have agreed to provide such enforcement and review at no additional cost or pro bono for the municipality so desiring these services. Thereby, we are effectively collaborating with other units of government on common issues for the benefit of the community and its individuals to preserve the beauty of the environment, which makes Grand Traverse County a desirable place to live. Finally then, consequently, Fife Lake Village, Fife Lake Township, as well as Kingsley Village and Whitewater Township respectfully request that you support those communities desiring the intergovernmental agreements for the administration and enforcement of stormwater ordinances. I thank you for your consideration, and please allow us to address any concerns you may have.
Lisa or Lynn, do you have any comments you'd like to make before we open up to the board?
I just want to reiterate that we don't have anyone in our area with this expertise, and our water issues affect everyone, so, as you've heard from many citizens who's come in the past. So I think it's important that you support this. Thanks.
And I guess I would just I'd go along with what Lisa said, and also we do have a very hilly terrain, especially in the village, but we also have several lakes in our township, so we do have these stormwater issues, and we'd really like your support on this.
All right, okay. I will now open this up to the Board of Commissioners.
Move for approval.
Moved by Commissioner Thomas.
Support.
Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Max Bauer to approve the interlocal agreement for regional stormwater management as presented in your packet and as discussed by the Drain Commissioner. Is there discussion? Commissioner Wheelock.
Well, I won't be supporting this motion this evening. The vast majority of the townships and the governmental units in our community have opted to not enact the stormwater ordinance at a time when we're looking at our budget and things to cut out. This is not a statutory responsibility of the county in any fashion. It is a responsibility of the townships. It's not our job to enforce this, and at a time when we're looking at cutting out services across the board, I won't be supporting this enactment.
Okay, Commissioner Max Bauer.
Kevin, you're offering to do this for your present salary at no additional cost, correct?
Absolutely, that's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Thomas.
This shouldn't cost us anything, should it?
That's right. That's what I said, that the prosecutor and I have agreed to do this pro bono moving forward. Mr. Chair, may I address Commissioner Wheelock's comment that I agree. You know, this is a township issue, but I mentioned 4 communities. These townships want to handle it this way. This is similar to the collaboration that we county currently provides relative to junk, noise, and fireworks ordinances for those communities so desiring of them.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Rennie and then Commissioner Lemkool.
I would like to have the prosecutor's feelings on this issue, as far as him taking this on, where he's at with respect to his budget, what he thinks this will add to cost to the county.
Well, I haven't discussed this with the Drain Commissioner prior to tonight, but my position all along has been that if the board wants me to do this, we'll do it. It wouldn't cost more in terms of adding personnel, because we wouldn't do that. We could manage it with existing personnel and resources. And, you know, we did enforce these agreements for several years. And frankly, we didn't have a lot of enforcement issues that made it as far as our office or the litigation. And so I guess that's...
Okay. Commissioner, was I supposed to call on anybody? Okay.
It was him.
Lemkool and then Commissioner Lathrop.
Yeah, we had a discussion a couple months ago because we'd had 3 or 4 different complaints about people in developments. And one of the things that we requested is that we get together with all the township supervisors to determine what their needs are, whether they want to do this. And I have a problem trying to do this piecemeal. I think that we should all come together and determine, all the townships should come together and determine how they want to do this.
Commissioner Lathrop and then Commissioner Rennie.
I think you're right, and I know that Commissioner Rennie feels the same way, and I think, I've discussed it with Bob, that we should, as a community, come together, there's a lot of stakeholders in this, and fix it. But that, at best, is going to be a couple months away, and even the decisions that come out of that meeting are going to be a couple months after that. These townships, there are townships, and like you said, Sonny, township lines are not cement walls. Water runs past township lines into their neighbors' townships. These people have immediate needs to be met. It has to do with economic development. In fact, you're already working on a couple cases, aren't you?
That's correct. Commissioner Lemkool, I understand. I've heard about this regional meeting, and I agree, and I very much look forward to that. But Commissioner Lathrop is right. There are some immediate concerns. In Fife Lake Township right now, there's a Family Dollar proposed store. I've been doing pro bono stormwater reviews relative to that. There's also some stormwater improvements required for Evergreen Street. So, long story short, yes, that meeting is great, but we have immediate needs now. We need to move forward, and I hate to discourage economic development for these
I want to continue.
challenged communities.
Sure.
Okay. So there's an immediate need, and I think that any decision any large group makes down the road will supersede this decision. It's reversible. If you look at the agreement, it says that it can be broken in 90 days. And secondly, the people that are going to choose, now I heard another suggestion, we should do this case by case. Well, it will be done case by case because these township people and township people and village people are going to be choosing who they want to do it case by case. So if there's any unhappiness with who administers these township ordinances, whether it be a licensed, let's say it's, well, what's an engineering firm in town? Well, be an
Gordy Frazier.
Yeah, okay. Or Milky the Clown. I mean, whoever it is, if you don't like that person, if you folks don't like that person, you can divorce him. And the whole thing can be dumped in 90 days. So we have an immediate need for these people, number one. Number two, it is case by case in that there's always adjudication on people's performances, and if they don't perform well, people in your township can stop it right away and pick somebody else. Am I right? Yeah. Okay, so, and I do concur that this is a township decision, and each township has its right to make its own decision.
All right, Commissioner Reddy.
I kind of echo what Herb had to say. I've been a commissioner 11 months and 1 week, or whatever it is. This has been an issue since the day I got here. It is time for us, on a countywide basis, to figure out what is the best way to handle this. I don't believe piecemeal is the way to go. If there are outstanding projects right now, I think, and there is an issue, that project could be brought before us and we could decide on that. Until we get these other units together, find out what works, what doesn't work, what would be a good overall policy so we don't have this confusion in the county. If you looked at the administrator's report, our building permits, soil erosion and so forth are up significantly. It's going to keep going. We have to be ready to serve these folks when they come in and want to do some economic development. It's the only way for us to get out of this monetary situation other than put more taxes on the people. We need development. We welcome development, but we want to make it smooth and seamless from the entire county standpoint, in my opinion. Now, I believe Commissioner Max Bauer suggested we have this meeting
Yes, I did that
a month or so ago.
about 2 months ago.
Doesn't happen. I don't understand why. I think it's a serious issue, and I think it's time to address it. If we do have a project underway, I think we could look at that project if there is such an issue on an individual basis. That's where I would be with it.
Commissioner Lathrop.
I would say that's just what you're getting is if you believe in economic development, these folks have a couple projects right online. They can use some help. They're not a wealthy group. That's just what you want. It is on a case-by-case basis because they handle it case-by-case. This type of agreement's been done before with junk, noise, ordinances. There's no reason to not let this simple answer to their immediate problems exist. I think it does promote economic development right now, and we need it right now, not 6 months from now.
Lisa Leedy, and then we will open it up to the audience if they have any questions.
I would just like to say that I believe, it's my understanding, that everyone, all the townships and villages got a letter in the mail a year ago, in December of last year, that addressed this issue and asked everybody to decide what they were going to do about it. I got a letter, and I believe every other township got a letter. I don't know where the other townships stand. I did my homework. I consulted another engineer who has a hydrology background and information to find out what exactly this entailed. Once I figured out how complicated this was and how it could inhibit my economic development, and I am working very hard in that area right now, I realized that we need the backing of the county to be able to do this. So whether or not the other townships choose to come on board is up to each of them, but we've all had a year that this has been going on, and we've all been aware of it. So as far as I'm concerned, I did my homework and I acted on it, and now I'm asking for your support to at least move forward until such time that the other, if we want to all get together, that would be great. But we haven't gotten together in a year, and some of us have gone forward on it. So I think that out of respect for that, I'd like to see that you at least support this temporarily until that time when everyone gets together.
Okay. Let me make a remark, and then I'll call on the audience. Just to reflect on this whole situation, there was a disagreement with the board when this first came up in terms of whether we were going to split the responsibilities of the drain commissioner. I personally felt that it wasn't appropriate to do, that I felt that both positions of the drain commissioner and soil erosion should stay together. So there is no confusion on the public's part as to where they need to go and who they need to contact. And we would have one resource, one person that could manage both sides of the fence. And so, any event, I didn't agree with the board's position, but we're living with it, and I guess it's my opinion that anytime a township or a municipality wishes to come back to the county and enter into an agreement with the drain commissioner, I'm in favor of that. In defense of the chairman, we did ask the chairman to look into the possibility of having a meeting before year end, but that was previous to the enormous avalanche of issues and meetings regarding our 014 budget, which we really haven't had, truthfully, an opportunity to organize or get something together on another issue. That will have to wait until the first of the year. So I want to defend the chairman on that. So hearing no other comments from the board, I will open it up to members of the public that has an opinion on this issue, and then we will vote. We will call on Garfield Township Supervisor Chuck Korn first. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
To the podium.
My name is Chuck Korn from Garfield Township. We did talk to a number of the townships about adopting this particular agreement. Several townships are dead set against it. Others are a little more open-minded, but there's certainly not a single mind out there. And not too many people are excited about going to a meeting to talk about dealing with the county. All I'm going to say.
We would love to come to Garfield.
I would encourage you, though, for those townships. Within Garfield, we have resources. We have people. I have people who are certified. I have staff. Some of the smaller townships and villages, I'm sure it's quite a burden on them, and I would encourage you to go ahead and approve this agreement.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We did have another member of the public. Yes, ma'am, come on up. So state your name and address for us first.
Commissioners, my name is Tracy Andrews. I live at 713 Lake Avenue in Traverse City, and I'm here on behalf of the Watershed Center. I met most of you a couple of weeks ago. I was sitting next to Kevin when he was talking about the SAW grant application. I work for the Watershed Center as an attorney and a policy advisor. I've spent a lot of time under a grant to work on stormwater issues, specifically working with several townships in Grand Traverse County. We've been working on revised ordinances. The Watershed Center is very concerned about stormwater, ensuring there is enforcement, ensuring that we have good ordinances that are being implemented properly across the region. And I would strongly concur with Commissioner Lemkool that a piecemeal approach is not a good way to go, but it's better than not having a piecemeal approach and not having enforcement and not having stormwater enforcement in these 4 communities that are asking the county to allow this to go forward. So we strongly support the commissioners approving these 4 ordinances, and we also would love to participate in a meeting. We could help facilitate a meeting. We would like to bring what we have done so far and would like to see done, or we would like to help wherever there's a way to help. I've extended that offer individually to some members, and I would like to make that to the board as a whole. We strongly think that the commissioners are in the right spot to say this is an opportunity for the county to take a leadership role, and we would be your partners in that as well in any way we can. So we thank you for your consideration, and have a good evening.
All right, thank you for coming and expressing your opinion. Anyone else in the public wish to express an opinion on this matter? Yes, sir, come on up. Can you state your name and address for us?
Hello, my name is Bill Klaus. I live at 5523 North Hannah Road, Kingsley, Michigan. Tonight I heard a lot about the county needing to make budget cuts. And I also heard our prosecutor indicate that, it probably wouldn't take much time, to enforce this proposed ordinance. I truly believe the prosecutor's got a pretty full plate as it is, including all of his staff. And there's probably not much, if any, time that you could say is able to be delegated to this ordinance by the prosecutor's office without causing something else to slide or not be attended to. Why should all the residents of the county pay those costs that will come to be for the municipalities within the county, any municipalities within the county, so that they can have a stormwater ordinance that truly is not necessary? If municipalities want a stormwater ordinance, they should pay their way. That's what all of us do in life. We pay our way. There's been a lot of projects built in Grand Traverse County without a stormwater ordinance. Back in the days of Warren Verhaeg, there was all sorts of things built. There was no stormwater ordinance then. There hasn't been an effective stormwater ordinance for quite a while now, and construction hasn't stopped. It's continued and continued well. And I've said this before, excuse me, but in 1994, Michigan adopted NAREPA. NAREPA stands for Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act. Chapter 324, Part 91, governs soil erosion and sedimentation control issues. Part 91 specifically governs the movement of solid particulate matter from the land, whether suspended in water, wind, or gravity. Now, I don't know how we could have a stormwater issue that didn't move particulate matter. We've already got state law, Part 91, in place that's enforceable by the state. It will not cost the municipalities any more money to enforce it. They won't have to enforce it. They contact the state. It wouldn't cost the county any more money. It wouldn't cost Bob Cooney's office any more time. It's already there. We just need to use it. NAREPA, Chapter 324, Part 91, it's only about 10 pages. It's pretty simple, but it all boils down to the movement of particulate matter, be it by water, wind, or gravity. So I just can't imagine what the benefit would be to adopt a stormwater ordinance and go through the cost locally when the state already has this handled and we just need to use the tools that are provided to us. That's all I got to say.
All right, thank you for coming this evening. Anyone else wish to speak on this issue? All right, let's go with Larry Fleece and then we'll go with you. Okay. Okay, Mr. Zellner, you want to go first? Okay.
Pete Zernhelt, 1613 Outer Drive West, Traverse City, along Lake Township. This was not a matter I was going to speak to. I've just listened to what was said here tonight. And I would encourage you, this board, to support these contracts and agreements that the townships have asked the county board to support. And we have townships in this county that are relatively affluent, and we have other townships in this county that are not so affluent, have less tax base, less money to go around. And I'm not trying to disparage Fife Lake Township or Paradise or any of these townships, but I think they are townships, if you take the big picture in Grand Traverse County, that are the less affluent townships in the county, and they need assistance from this board on these agreements. And so I think that and the fact that what's more important is that we control groundwater from getting off properties, getting into our streams, getting into our lakes. And I think that should be the goal of this board, and that should be the decision that you use, or the determination you use to approve these agreements. They don't have the resources to do it, and I can't say they won't do it, but if you don't have the money, it's less likely it's going to get done. And you should be encouraging economic development, which maybe is going to be stopped or at least slowed down as a result of a failure of these contracts. So I would highly urge you to approve these agreements. So, thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you. Larry Fleece? Welcome back, former County Commissioner Larry Fleece and current governmental official from Blair Township.
Thank you. It's nice to see all your smiling faces, but I'm glad I'm not sitting in your seat. But I do have some comments, excuse me.
And we'll, for the record, know Larry Fleece and your address is?
Oh, Larry Fleece, 5237 Norton Road, and that's in the metropolis of Groton. And I've got a few years there, 44 to be exact. But anyway, I was really amazed to find out that this was on the agenda tonight. We had the former board I sat on, which I got off December 31st last year. We discussed this at length. And we had a lot of problems with the drain commissioner. In fact, he wasn't performing his job. And the county board ended up, to make a long story short, county board voted to strip him of all of his duties except his statutory duties and transfer him to the building code office under the direction of Bruce Ramey, the director of the code office. After having done that, the complaints that I, as a commissioner, was receiving ceased. But like you guys sitting here and Christine, I remember one night sitting here, contractor after contractor, and they were angry. Some of them are talking about 13 years ago where there was no performance. 10 years ago there was no performance. And I'm really concerned about Bob Cooney's office. I spent 29 years in law enforcement with the city, and I'm well aware of the load on the prosecutor's office. And I've noticed, since Mr. Cooney took office, number one, it appears to me that prosecutions of all kinds are up. He pays attention not just to the big stuff, but he's taking care of anything. In fact, I haven't heard a complaint, and for some reason, I own Lark Lawn and Garden. People love to come out there. If you're standing at the counter, whatever topic they've got a sore issue about, they talk about. And I've not heard a negative comment on Mr. Cooney's office. And to think that it isn't going to cost the county board any money through budgetary actions with Mr. Cooney's office is erroneous. I guarantee it's gonna cost you money. And the sad part is, we already have, if the two villages and the township that's here tonight have problems, they can contact Mr. Remay, and I am sure he will put them, he'll either take care of the situation in his office, or they'll put them in contact, and it'll get done. But I realize the board's changed. Instead of 9, there's only 7. But the ones that were here, I think, can vividly remember what I'm talking about. And I absolutely, as a taxpayer in Grand Traverse County, would be violently opposed to anything going back to the Drain Commissioner, particularly what's being proposed tonight. Let me tell you the dangers on stormwater retention. My grandson, 16 years old, driving a car, headed north on 37, just north of Town Hall Road this spring. He lost control. He had his father riding in the front seat with him. They crossed the center line. They went off the highway. And in this business is a huge retention pond. I would say it's probably 10 foot deep, maybe 50 feet long. And at the speed they were going, which was a highway speed, and it's quite a ways off the road, he was airborne, and at about 5 foot level in this bank, he hits head on. It's like hitting a solid, it totaled the car out. And thank goodness there wasn't anybody seriously injured. But another thing, if you have a place where you have retention ponds and you're controlling stormwater, you get mosquitoes. I live in Blair Township, Green Lake Township. Both of our townships never had a stormwater ordinance. We didn't partake. And the young lady, president of the village, talked about a letter that came a year ago. Well, what the letter was a little earlier, but what the letter was asking, did they want to continue with the stormwater ordinance based with the...
Is there a 5-minute or 3-minute on this?
Yeah, you got to wind
with the
things up,
county,
right?
and so pardon?
If you can kind of wind things up.
All right. So consequently, I'm surprised, Mr. Lathrop, that you would object to my talking.
I think you should abide by the rules everyone else by.
Hey.
Okay? That's what I think.
I understand where you're
Okay.
coming from.
Okay.
Perfectly.
Good.
But anyway, I would ask this board not to even enter into that agreement again. I would hate to see the prosecutor's office suffer as a result of it. And sure, maybe there isn't that many to start out with, but there will be. And we don't need to take anything away from Mr. Cooney's staff. I think he's fairly short already. Thank
Okay.
you for your indulgence.
Thank you, Larry Fleece, for coming tonight. Appreciate it. Anyone else wish to speak on this matter? Bruce Vermey, and then we'll have Linda. And we would like to kind of keep the same guidelines as public comments if we could.
Bruce Vermey, Director, Building Official for the Grand Traverse County Construction Code Soil Erosion Sedimentation Department. I agree that stormwater is an issue, but I do not believe that the county should oversee it. There are a few townships that have adopted and created their own ordinance, Acme Township, East Bay, Peninsula Township. And I think it's very important that the board ask the townships why they don't want the county involved in it, and ask them what they're doing, and it's working well. To piecemeal things, when the developers come in, who do I talk to? Well, that's the drain commissioner. Oh, no, that's over here. It should be consistent across the board for less confusion. We had meetings a year ago. Bob Cooney was at those meetings, and we talked to the townships about the separation of the stormwater and the soil erosion. Some townships responded, some didn't. But as Mr. Korn said, there are some townships out there that don't want the county involved, and I think it's important that you ask them why.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you,
coming.
Bruce.
Linda? Can I get a show of hands of who else wishes to speak on this matter? All right, thank you.
Want my address?
Now we've got it.
I just want to give you a little information about the township that I supervise. Fife Lake Township, we have, Fife Lake is our main lake. It's a 617-acre, all-season lake. It's a beautiful lake, just voted the best inland state in the state of Michigan. We didn't get any publicity up here, but we did in the Lansing State Journal. We have about 6 or 7 lakes. They feed down into the Manistee River in Wexford County, immediately south of us. Manistee, of course, feeds into Lake Michigan. We have done some very good, we've been very good stewards of our water in Fife Lake. We have a sewer system that goes around the lake. And we also have a very active milfoil program, which we've had quite good success with that. And Family Dollar is excited about building in the township. And we feel that's the start of corridor development. We do have some other businesses there. But we think along with that, we'll see more economic development in the village. We are suffering in the downtown area just like any other city or village, except the city of Traverse City. Your DDA and the people of Traverse City have done a very good job with the economy there. But we are approaching everything in a positive way, and we are hoping that the county will support us with approving this stormwater intergovernmental agreement.
All right,
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you, Linda. Assuming no other public comment, all right, we will bring it back to the board. We do have a motion on the floor to approve the intergovernmental agreement for regional stormwater management. Is there further discussion on board members? Commissioner Thomas.
Well, I made the motion to approve this, and the only reason why I did is because I do want to do it piecemeal, township by township. The 4 townships that I represent are all opposed to it. So that's why I made the motion to approve this, because I knew other townships have already adopted stormwater ordinances, and I don't feel that it's our business. I think we should stay out of it, but...
Okay, any other? Commissioner Lemkohl.
Yeah, I really like to have collaboration, cooperation, but I have a real problem here telling our prosecuting attorney that we want him to defend these issues. This is more work on his part. You're going to be looking at his budget and saying, well, we can do with one less prosecutor, and he's going to go, well, I guess I can't enforce some of these ordinances. He just told you that he takes his direction from this board. And if you want him to be responsible to defend this, then we're telling him to go ahead and do it without any money. I think that if you're going to do these by piecemeal, that there should be a cost. And the cost should be borne by the townships that put this in place. It should not be borne by all the rest of the county. Like Dick said, there's 4 of them that don't want anything to do with it. They shouldn't have to pay for another township to be able to have our prosecutor to defend something without any compensation. So I think there should be compensation. If you're going to pass this, then there ought to be compensation in there, not only for the prosecuting attorney, but also for the drain commissioner.
Okay, further discussion. Charlie Rennie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Who normally bears the cost for these designs and things like that when we do development? I thought it was the developer or the house builder.
As far as I know.
That's right.
Okay, is that correct?
As far as I know.
I'll leave it there.
Okay. All right. No more discussion? Okay, we have a motion on the floor, again, to approve the intergovernmental agreement for regional stormwater management as presented in your packet We will have a roll call vote, please.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Rennie,
No.
Thomas,
Yes.
Wheelock,
No.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Lemcool,
No.
Inman.
Yes. Motion passes, 4-3. Okay. I just want to let everyone know this will go to the Board of Commissioners for a final vote. Okay? Thank you for those that have stayed and talked. We will now move on to, under 9B, Human Resources Report, 2014 Employee Training Day Event. Jen, you have the floor.
Thank you.
You can get yourself introduced, everybody.
Jen Seaman, Human Resources Director for Grand Traverse County. I'm here today to ask for your approval for the county offices to be closed on Monday, January 20th for the purposes of internal staff development. We've done this for numerous years, way before my time. The city is also closed this day, and so it works out really well. This year we have some training that would be on personal and community emergency preparedness, and a variety of community partners that are going to put on this training for us at no cost for the county.
All right. Commissioner Rennie.
Motion to approve as presented.
Commissioner Lathrop.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the request by Human Resources to have a training day for the county on January 20th for all employee training day event. And it's been a historical event for the county. Any further discussion on the board? Commissioner Lathrop.
Got a question. Now, what kind of topics are you going to cover again? Did you say that?
It's in here.
Personal/community emergency preparedness. We have different presenters from the American Red Cross, the Road Commission, Central Dispatch. They're going to cover their Smart 911, just different things in community and personal emergency preparedness. The sheriff's office.
Are brand new commissioners invited? Can we attend too?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, that'd be cool. All right.
Commissioners have attended some of the sessions.
Yes, you are. You're not going to fire me, are you?
Nope.
All right.
They're very informative sessions, and commissioners have
I'd
attended.
like to go. I'll behave.
No problem.
Is there a way you can get a schedule to the commissioners? Can you get a schedule of the sessions to the commissioners if you could?
Sure, if you approve it.
That-
Just kidding.
I love that angle.
Sorry, been here since 8 o'clock.
It just
Okay,
got-
a little
Any further
crazy.
discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. All right.
Thank you.
Plan on it. It'll go to the board meeting, unless you need immediate approval right now.
I'll send you the agenda.
All right. Moving forward, we have the prosecuting attorney's report. Tattle Board Agreement, Appointment Agreement. Is that something you want to address, Bob?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
As the board will recall, this board approved a memorandum of understanding with the city back at the end of 2012, and that was to essentially change the makeup of the Tattle Board from 4 county appointees and 3 city appointees to 5 county appointees and 2 city appointees. The purposes of that agreement have been fulfilled. It was an informal agreement, and it's been fulfilled by the fact that the county board has now appointed its 5 appointees or filled positions as they became vacant. The city has done the same. And the agreement that you see attached there, starting on page 20, was a collaborative agreement between Tattle Board Attorney Chuck Judson in consultation with his board, City Attorney Lauren Tribolock, and myself. And what this agreement does is it formalizes going forward the appointment process for the county and the city. There's a little wrinkle here, and that is that, as you'll recall, at November's board meeting, the board approved 3 appointees whose terms expire in 2013. Part of the discussion back in 2012 was that we wanted to have the terms rotate, so we weren't replacing as many as 3 members of that board all at one time.
Okay.
So what this agreement does is it puts in place a system where you'd have 2 appointees whose terms would expire in 17, 2 in 18, 2 in 19, and 1 in 2020. And the only, I guess, simple way to do that is that if one of your county appointees, and that's what it says in this agreement, would be have a term expiring in 2014, when you approved the 3 appointees in November, there was no specific seat that they were filling.
Got it.
And so what I would suggest tonight is that rather than cut one of those 3 appointees' terms short, maybe the agreement would be that that person would receive the 1-year appointment and then be reappointed after 2014. And I don't see any obstacle to doing that. Obviously, we'd have the same board here next year to make that appointment. So essentially, you'd be making one of these a 5-year term. And again, the purpose of doing that would be to have no more than 2 appointees' terms expiring in any given year.
Okay, did you want the board to select the individuals that have the terms now, or do you want us to, would it be a good suggestion just to bring back an ad hoc committee, review those 3 individuals and determine what terms they want to bring forward? How do you want to handle it?
But my suggestion would be to have the ad hoc committee determine who would get the 1
Okay.
year plus a second 4-year appointment.
And the ad hoc committee that addressed that was Commissioner Wheelock, Commissioner Max Bauer,
Was Rennie in that?
and Commissioner Rennie?
I think so.
All right.
Yes.
So would you be willing to meet again and review those and come back to the board at the end of the month?
Yes,
And make that recommendation?
and I would
Okay.
like to meet after the city's date of approval, which,
Yes, the city is going to review this same agreement on
Right.
December 16th at their regular.
but I mean, if they don't agree to it, there's no point in us meeting. So let's let them agree to it, and then,
I don't think there's any question they're going to agree to that.
Yeah, they're gonna go
I think
with
the 4 of us just need to come to an agreement of one of these 3 appointees gets a 5-year term.
And by the way, there'll only be 3, because otherwise you have a quorum for that committee. I think we had 4, but we should
That's
only
right.
have 3.
So the 3 that would like to continue on that ad hoc committee would be Commissioner Max Bauer, Rennie,
I'm not going anywhere.
and
Wheelock.
Commissioner Wheelock. Okay, can we have a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
All right, is there a second?
Yep.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to reenact the ad hoc committee for the library board appointments of Commissioner Max Bauer, Commissioner Wheelock, and Commissioner
Rennie.
Rennie. And they will determine the terms of the individuals that were considered. Anything else?
Will they meet before,
Is it library?
well, in time to,
Library board.
We're looking at,
Wasn't I on library board?
we're looking at meeting,
There was
we're looking at
four.
having you come back with a report for the board meeting. Is that
Okay.
good?
That's fine, it's fine with me.
Okay.
I'm not
It's 2 weeks
planning
away.
on leaving
Yeah, that'd be 2
Traverse
weeks
City
away.
for the holidays.
So the chair of that committee is going to be
Chris, thanks, Bob.
Commissioner Max Bauer. All right. All right, everybody in favor of the motion?
Yep.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Congratulations, Commissioner Max Bauer.
Thank you. I will,
Set that meeting and report back by the board meeting, hopefully.
I will talk to you after this meeting and see if we can't, yes. we'll-
Mr. Chairman, I
can't do it
think
tomorrow.
we need to make that, we need to approve the agreement
meeting
before we
notice.
make those other appointments. You
Understand.
missed one.
Oh, that would be true. Thank you for that. We need a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
We
I
need
would
to concur
move,
with that agreement.
I would move to approve the title board agreement as outlined by the prosecutor.
Okay. Moved by Commissioner Wheelock.
Second?
Second by Commissioner Rennie. Discussion. Commissioner Lemkool.
I've had a couple of phone calls on this, concerned about the appointees and how they should be appointed. And I did talk to Mayor Estes, and he's holding agreement into this agreement. And so, this is what the prosecuting attorney has come up with, along with the attorney from the city of Traverse City. So therefore, I'm going to be able to support this.
All right. Anybody in the audience? All right, we have a motion on the...
I think the biggest
Yes,
reason
Mr.
this
Rock.
was done the way it is because one of the stipulations when the city agreed to allow us to have 5 is that we needed to make sure that we were geographically appointing, balancing the board, which represented the outlying libraries and facilities throughout the county.
We've honored our agreement.
And we've honored our agreement.
Yep.
And if I could just speak to that, the manner in which these people are appointed was set forth in the memorandum of understanding. We spent a lot of time in an ad hoc committee coming up with those criteria, and there was a lot of discussion, you might recall, about excluding city residents from county appointees and appointments, and that was removed by that ad hoc committee.
Yes.
That's part of this agreement still.
Yes.
That you could appoint someone who's a city resident.
We can.
Yeah. So this memorializes the same criteria that were in the memorandum of understanding.
Commissioner Lathrop.
We did put a lot of work into, I was on that group, and we put a lot of work into choosing those people. Is there a chance that different people will be chosen?
No.
No, we're just going to consider the
no.
terms.
We're just doing terms.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, just doing the terms. Any other discussion? Nothing from the audience? Something from the audience? Yes, sir.
Andy Merrick, 2875 East Railroad Avenue. As one of the appointees, it would make it easier for the board. I'd be willing to accept a 1-year term versus the 4-year term to be reconsidered, so you don't have to have another meeting, thus taking up some per diem and some costs. I don't know if that's something you guys would be willing to consider, but I'd be willing to accept a 1-year term. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Unless we hear a withdrawal on the motion on the floor, I will call for a roll call vote.
Rennie,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yep.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Lemkool,
Yes.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Inman.
Yes. Motion passes. That concludes the prosecuting attorney's report. We will move on to unfinished business, and the first item under unfinished business is the resolution that we previously approved opposing Senate Bill 552. I guess the administrator would like to speak on that because that had to be raised again for some certain reason.
Yeah, the third paragraph was requested at the Public Health and Safety meeting. It's on page 28 if you read in the resolution. We've added that, and we would like immediate effect.
Nicely done. Thank you. Motion to approve.
Support. All right, motion by Commissioner Lemko, seconded by Commissioner Wheelock to approve let me stop for a second. If we've already passed a motion on this issue and it's coming before us again, do we need a motion to reconsider and then come back and put this back on the floor?
We didn't approve it. We just
We
asked
did
for
not
revisions.
approve it?
Asked us to bring it back.
You asked us to bring it back?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I wanted to clarify. All right, so we have a standing motion on the floor to approve as presented by the administration. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes. All right, thank you for that clarification.
I would like to have this put into like a sample form and send to all the townships so they can act on it too.
We can do that.
Because this is really important for some of the townships that have got a lot of oil equipment in them.
Yeah.
Yep, no kidding.
It would cost them and the school district and everybody else a bunch of money if this was.
I need to go back on that all in favor vote.
Unfunded mandate.
I see on our agenda that the request is for an immediate approval.
Yes.
So,
That was my motion.
With the board's consent, we will do a friendly amendment to that motion for immediate approval, and we'll call for a roll call vote.
My motion was for immediate approval, because that's what's in there.
Then I need to do a roll call vote.
Thought you did.
Yeah, as a full board of commissioners, you gotta do a roll call vote.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thomas,
Yep.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Lemkool,
Yes.
Max Bauer.
Yes.
Rennie,
Yes.
Inman.
Yes. Okay, that takes care of that matter.
Yeah.
Next item is the item that the board had asked to put back on the agenda regarding the further discussion of the 2014 budget. You have in your packet the original budget recommendation and the 2014 general appropriation resolution that was presented to us, and it's in your packet from Public Safety. And I will, I guess, call on the chairman, Commissioner Lemkool, on this item to begin with.
I will make a motion. Regrettably, I don't want to support this, but I will support the recommendation for appropriations as presented in our agenda.
All right, I want to clarify the procedure that we need to go through with Robert Cooney. When we readdress an item on our board rules, do we need a motion to reconsider the item and then vote on the item, or can we just change the item and vote?
This was a motion that was approved already.
It didn't get passed.
It failed. It failed.
So this is we need a
and I was one of the no votes.
So I guess you wouldn't need a motion to reconsider. You would just need somebody from the no side to bring up a motion.
That's right. You need someone who voted
in the next
on the winning side.
And the winning side. So we do not need a motion to reconsider. We just need somebody that from the winning side of the 4 votes to make a motion to change their vote.
And that was me.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor by
I will
Commissioner
support.
Lemko, and we have a second by Commissioner Wheelock.
It's a good thing I'm sitting down.
To approve the budget recommendation and the 2014 general appropriation resolution from Public Safety. Discussion. Commissioner Rennie.
Now, what are we going to do about this CPO, that increase? Had a lot of talk about the 5% number being rather big.
I would ask, and that was going to be my friendly amendment request, was to change the increase for the CPOs from 5% to 2.5%.
All right, does the motion maker agree with that?
Yep.
Okay. So the differential
Will be
Dave,
made up with fund balance.
You will be made up with fund balance or the contingency fund. Either one.
Yeah.
All right. Commissioner Wheelock, and then Commissioner Max Bauer.
If we've made the decision already, you know, if everyone's okay with the idea about the 2.5%, I think that, you know, at least in the conversations that I've had, the townships can live with that. You know, I think, you know, the other thing is we still stress there are still issues with this budget that we know we're going to talk about going into the next year. You know, I still want to stress the commitment to go through the budget over the next 6 months and make sure that we're doing this right. You know.
Okay, Commissioner Max Bauer.
I think we need to move quickly in reviewing the budget. We need to keep the impact on our fund balance to an absolute minimum. And I think we saw a sterling example of what can be done from our county clerk this evening. And I think we can really reduce the impact on our fund balance and keep services at a respectable level.
All right, Commissioner Thomas, you had your hand up or no?
I may, not right now.
Okay, Commissioner Wheelock and then Commissioner Lemko.
I think an important thing to note, though, is even though we budget the fund balance, doesn't necessarily mean we will spend it.
And I don't want to.
You know, I think I heard from Dean Vaught this morning that he's estimating that even though we budgeted $625,000 fund balance in 2012 or 13's budget, we will not expend that. In fact, we may, in fact, actually grow our fund balance this year.
Hey, Commissioner Lemko.
We can do this, Sonny.
My question is whether or not I can make this as immediate effect, or does it have to go before the board?
I need a clarification question on procedural. We're basically passing the same resolution that we had a public hearing on at our last hearing, so the issue of having another public hearing has been resolved, I believe, unless I'm hearing contrary to you or Mr. Cooney. So I believe that once we've had the public hearing, we can make that as an immediate effect vote.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Unless Bob's got another, I've got.
All right, so is the motion maker to make it immediate? Is the second agree? All right, is there further discussion?
Yeah,
Commissioner Lathrop.
I have to admit, I'm confused, this, which is kind of common for me.
It's okay.
Sorry. We're voting on using our fund balance. We're not voting on passing a budget. Is that?
Yes, it is.
No, we are.
Oh.
We're passing a budget.
So this is all in one?
All in
Yes.
one.
Okay.
With a commitment to move forward, reviewing the budget as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
To keep that.
So I have a couple things. First of all, I feel like Aldersgate Experience in Methodist Church, my heart is strangely warmed. Why are you doing this?
Because otherwise, we're going to be here until tomorrow morning trying to figure out how to do this.
Yeah,
Bless your heart.
And I think that, in retrospect, you know, the kind of the guiding rule is that all the commissioners have their own opinions on how they vote, and sometimes we don't want to kind of challenge them on your.
Well, no, I don't mean an accusation. I'm
fine.
sorry. I'm just wondering, I'm wondering why.
I don't want to pass this budget accordingly, but I have to.
All right, Commissioner Thomas and then Commissioner Rennie.
Well, we just have to remember that the budget is a guide.
Yes.
As soon as we pass it, our first month in January, we'll be amending it.
Well, yeah, we will.
And as long as you've got somebody like Dave and Dean over there being careful about our money, hey, we come out pretty good all the time. This has been a tougher year.
Now,
I've got Commissioner Rennie.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay, and then we'll go to you.
I would let Dan take my...
Okay, Commissioner Rennie.
well, this has the codicil that we are committing ourselves to changing things. And I would like to see us do it in 90 days and not 60 days, because I'm concerned about not using our fund balance. And if we all promise that, I'm going to vote for this.
Okay. Commissioner Rennie.
In looking at this with what we're doing, this is an issue, this proposal we discussed before. I think it appears to the public we're kicking the can down the road again. I hear that term all the time. I could be in favor of something like this if we did something specific now as far as a cut. I know we're always promised we're going to look at this stuff later. Stormwater, things like that. We've been trying to get this thing going for months. It doesn't happen. We cannot wait 6 months to do this. We have to compress this into a reasonable period of time if you're going to do that. But honestly, I cannot support this bill as presented. I said that last week.
I just want to let you know that, I guess you can throw this on me, that I was the commissioner that originally brought this option to the board with the covenant that this gets us a process that allows enough time to meet with all the department heads, to do a detailed analysis on the budget, to have the department heads come back to us with suggested changes in their budget, to lower their budget, be innovative like the clerk has done, to bring back recommendations on changes that could affect their budget, both in enhancing revenues and decreasing expenses, and innovative ways to restructure their department to save money. And that will give us really a smart, effective process and an even playing field for every department to address the board and for us to deliberate and make our decisions. I feel that we can get this done way earlier than 6 months. I think if this board commits at the end of this meeting under notices and announcements, that if we commit, for example, on every Wednesday, every week, we're going to meet at 1 o'clock, for example, till 3. I'm just throwing out an idea that if we meet weekly on this thing and we agree on a date and a time every week that we're going to come in here for 2 or 3 hours and hear these budgets and have dialogue with these departments and get this process done as soon as possible and as efficiently as possible. That was my pitch when I said let's use this fund balance reluctantly. And my goal is, if we can get this process done in enough time, we would not be funding the full amount, hopefully, of the amount that we would be transferring of $1 million, or that's under $1 million that would be budgeted for, and that we can potentially make those cuts during the year of 2014 early enough to save that portion of the fund balance and make additional decisions for the 2015 budget So we're not right back in the same trap again next year, arguing about cuts, that we're going to make the cuts necessary to balance out 014 without using as less an amount on the fund balance. And we would also be addressing the 2015 projected budget and making those recommended cuts, because we know, ladies and gentlemen, commissioners, that revenue sharing probably will not be installed at the amount that they promised us at $1.5 million. We know probably healthcare will go up. We know we have to rebalance out our capital improvement fund. We know there could be another tax effect on, all these people that want relief from their property taxes. So, that will give us the appropriate time for Dean Bott and Dave Bennett and our superior staff here, administrative staff here, to help us guide us through those adjustments for not only 014 but 015. And then when we get done with this process, we have set the stage for the rest of 014 and in 15, and we're going to leave at least the term of this commission, I think, on solid ground with this budget. Commissioner Thomas.
This motion limits the increase for the CPOs at 2.5%?
2.5%.
Rather than the 5?
Yes. Further discussion. Commissioner Lemkool, Commissioner Lathrop.
When you pass this budget, if we decide that we're going to pass this budget, and you want me to set the calendar, I need some direction on that. My first inclination is that we do it at our regular meetings, and each of the individual chairpersons of those areas would set the budget or set the agenda, and so that they would review that with the administrator to figure out how much time we would have, so we don't have to do additional meetings.
Really, you bring up a good point. The committee structure of the county board, like this one, is set up with responsibility of discussing and managing certain areas within Grand Traverse County's budget. And so we can take, the 3 committees that we've got structured and set forth those departments that fit within those areas and come in. We can either come in earlier or try to get them done, or just stay later during the meeting and get it done. Commissioner Maxbauer.
I was just going to suggest perhaps we need to look at coming in earlier.
Yeah.
Because as I look at tonight's agenda, we're going to be here a little while yet.
Right. Okay.
Which is fine.
And
but
let's address the time and date under notices and announcements if we could.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion on the motion? No. Commissioner Lathrop.
I want to commend Commissioner Lemkool on his leadership. It made it come together. Thank you.
All right. Well, let's have a roll call. So the motion on the floor is to approve the budget recommendation that was given to us at Public Safety and along with the 2014 General Appropriation Resolution, with the change that the community policing officers will not be at 5%, they will be at 2.5%, and that this motion will take immediate effect of the full Board of Commissioners. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Wheelock.
Yes, ma'am.
Lathrop.
Yes.
Lemkool.
Yes.
Maxbauer.
Yes.
Runny.
No.
Thomas.
Yes.
Inman.
Yes. Motion passes with 1 nay.
I might say that this is the first time I've ever seen Mr. Commissioner Maxbauer vote for a budget. I'm impressed, and thank you.
Well, actually, it's not the first time.
Well, it's
Remember,
pretty close.
well, I have to tell you,
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
There's one thing, I'd like to make the suggestion that, like, if we're going to do it every Wednesday afternoon, not at 1 o'clock, let's go 3 or 4 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those of
agree.
us who live in a different time zone can get something to eat between the meetings and not
But also-
drive back home.
But
Yeah.
also, I think it's important that we consider the staff so that they're not coming in after hours to go
Yeah.
and do this.
Yeah,
Rennie?
I like the
Well-
idea of 3.
That's
Commissioner Rennie?
fine, 3:30.
I'm a very busy guy in the middle of the week.
Oh.
Okay?
All right.
Every week. And we've
Well,
been
we're
doing this
doing this-
Wednesday thing for some other folks' schedule. I got a schedule too.
Well, let's
If we want to
just-
discuss it during some other
Yeah,
part
let's
of the meeting,
discuss that
let's
over,
do that.
notices
Or
and announcements.
Herb's point is well taken.
We
Let's
can-
do it during a meeting.
We can discuss this schedule at our organizational meeting on January 2nd. Come prepared with ideas.
All right.
That is fine, too. Why don't we
Good
relate
idea.
to that? That's a great idea.
Sounds good.
Okay, let's do that.
That would be wonderful, Herb.
All right. That's a consensus understanding, doesn't need a vote. All right, that concludes unfinished business. We will move on to new business. Chris Cook is here, the Honorable Chris Cook. Why don't you come on up? Chris is the attorney of record that represented Grand Traverse County and Officer Jetter at the Carlson versus Jetter case. Welcome to the Board of Commissioners. On behalf of the Board of Commissioners, we want to give you really a standing applause as to your excellent performance and professionalism in defending Officer Jetter and Grand Traverse County, and really understanding the feeling of the Board of Commissioners to take this right down to the end, because we felt in our heart it was right. You felt in your heart it was right, and you defended us in honor and in high integrity. And Commissioner Maxbauer was there. A number of commissioners were there, and we're so very proud of your representation of Officer Jetter and Grand Traverse County. Thank you so much. So we're just
Thank you. Hooray.
So with that, we have some discussion. First one is there's an issue about the additional fees that were encumbered. As you know, we did a member preference. You can explain that to the board, again, in this open session. And the agreement on fees that the county agreed to pay, and then the additional fees that were out there that we're going to be responsible for, and how we might want to handle that.
Right, Commissioner, I think that when we had a chance to discuss what was going on with the coverage issue, there was a condition of the policy that was asserted by MMRMA called member preference. And what happened is that the MMRMA wanted to settle that case. And it was the feeling of this board unanimously, as I recall, as it was my own personal feeling, as it was a feeling of the Sheriff's Department and Deputy Jetter, that we did nothing wrong, and there wasn't liability for what we did. That Deputy Jetter did the only thing that he could have done under the circumstances that he was confronted with. And it was a tragic ending, obviously, and not something that anybody wanted. But when it comes to trying to assess liability to Deputy Jetter or to the Sheriff's Department or to the county, that legally that wasn't there. So we had a very difficult decision. The board had a very difficult decision as to whether or not to essentially go it alone and defend that case moving forward from the point where the insuring organization wanted to settle the case, and the board elected to go forward. Well, that meant, of course, that then the costs and fees associated with defending the case from that point forward were borne by the county. Now, we agreed as part of, to assist in that decision-making process, to cap our fees, and we did that, and that cap was exceeded by a fairly sizable amount, but those monies weren't charged back to the county. Those were something that me personally, my firm, absorbed. So now that we prevailed, now that we established that we didn't have liability and that a jury voted unanimously in support of the actions of the Sheriff's Department and Sergeant Jetter, my thought is, and of course the board needs to be the entity that speaks to this, my thought is we should go back to the insuring organization and say, look, we took a position that was a difficult position to take from a member position. It was a difficult position to take politically. It was a risk. You essentially left us uncovered over and above the amount of money you wanted to expend to resolve the case. but we felt that there was not liability, and we felt that it was important to stand up for the actions of law enforcement, and we proved that we were right under a difficult situation. So now that the risk is eliminated, essentially, the risk of a runaway verdict or whatever the concern was for the insuring organization, we'd like you to step in here and reimburse us for those costs. Now, I think that would be the right thing to do. I think contractually they have no obligation to do it. The insuring agreement speaks pretty clearly regarding member preference. And once member preference is asserted by the insuring organization, the member then bears the additional costs going forward. And there's nothing in the policy that says, if you prevail, then we'll reimburse you. Essentially, I mean, I think it's a matter of public knowledge. We saved the MMRMA $850,000.
We did.
And that's a pretty sizable piece of money. And the cost to defend the case from that point moving forward was substantially less than that. So, I mean, I think we should take that to the MMRMA to see if they'll step in and reimburse the member for those costs going forward. It's probably going to be something that is difficult from a risk management perspective for MMRMA to agree to do that. It would be unusual, and they'd probably be concerned about setting precedent. And they'd also probably be concerned about maybe other member municipalities taking a similar position to the position that we took. And that could be something that would be a difficult thing maybe for them to control or to understand or to deal with. But there's a second step to that process too that I think we might want to consider, and that is the MMRMA is run by a board, a governing board, and those people that are on the board are representatives of the various municipalities. Would that board be receptive to this type of discussion? I'm not sure, but I think it's something that we at least should, in my estimation, advocate for. After all, when you look at the financial end of it, it's a cost savings all the way around for the insuring organization, and this board in this county took the risk of going forward and defending Sergeant Jett. So I think personally, from my perspective, it would probably be something that would be perceived in a rather negative light by the MMRMA, that I would advocate for this. But I think it's only the right thing to do. I think that's why you paid the premiums. And I think, frankly, from my perspective, it would be an appropriate thing for them to step up and do.
Okay.
It's unusual.
All right. Do we have an estimate of the amount that is involved in maybe proceeding with a letter?
Well, we know what our costs are.
Beyond the $75,000 cap? All right, okay. Commissioner Maxbauer, you have something, and then we'll call on Commissioner Wheelock.
Well, as everyone here knows, I sat through days of that trial, and I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that we, as a board, did the correct thing. We did the right thing. I do believe that, I agree, we saved MMRMA. You know, I don't recall one time, and maybe Chairman Inman, you've been here a lot longer than I have. I don't recall one time where MMRMA has not said, oh, let's settle, oh, let's settle. You know, and that $850,000, make no mistake, that's taxpayer money. And that is reflected in, if I'm not mistaken, in our insurance premiums, in everybody's insurance premiums, because they, you know, I mean, they're not
You're right.
printing money with a printing press.
No, it's a pooled system.
It's a pool. I do believe that we should pay the bill, and I believe that we should ask MMRMA, and to reimburse us.
Okay, is that a motion?
Yes.
All right, moved by Commissioner Max Bauer, seconded by Commissioner Wheelock, to ask MMRA to reimburse Grand Traverse County on the expenses that exceeded $75,000 or including our $75,000?
What my motion was that we pay the costs of the trial, and we ask MMRMA for reimbursement
Of costs above the cap?
of our costs.
Above the cap of $75,000?
Yes, total, yes.
All right, is that second agree? Okay, discussion. Commissioner Wheelock.
Clarify, because I think you're saying one thing and Larry's saying something else. And I just
The cost of the trial
Now,
above the cap of the $75,000.
Now, I think we all need to hear what the costs were before we vote on the motion.
Would like to know that.
I don't know if we have that number exactly. We do? Okay.
We do. Dave was anticipating that question. Chris had invoiced $99,197.94, which was with the legal fees, and costs that were incurred were $23,697.29. I believe you had a couple of other invoices that you had not
two experts
provided to me, but the total is $122,895.23. We have paid Cook Law the $75,000, which was what the board had agreed to pay for the legal defense, and we also covered the costs of $23,000. So the difference is approximately $24,000, I think $197.
Okay.
That we have not.
All right. Commissioner Wheelock and then Commissioner Rennie.
I guess my point, and I'm very pleased to do this and go after MMRMA for this, but because, you talk about this was a political decision. It wasn't political to me at all. This was a matter of what was the right thing to do. Politics had nothing to do with it. But I think it's important that we need to approach the MMRMA board directly, because I don't think, I remember at least a couple nights of conference calls with chief executive officers from MMRMA that basically told us we didn't have a chance and we didn't know what we were talking about. That the right thing to do was to settle this because the risk was too high. I don't think we're going to get satisfaction, if you will, from those people. I think the only opportunity we have of getting the money back to Grand Traverse County and the citizens of Grand Traverse County for this expenditure is to go to the MMRMA board. I don't believe the chief executive officers of MMRMA will pay us one dime. They didn't want us to do this. They were very adamant that we were doing the wrong thing, and I don't believe if we just go to the organization per se through their executive branch, we have a chance of getting money back.
I would agree
I would
with
agree
that.
with that. Commissioner, Commissioner Rennie, and then
I
Commissioner
guess
Lemko.
getting back to this motion, so the total amount of money we're talking about is around $200,000?
No.
No.
What is the actual?
There was a
amount of money?
$75,000 cap.
That we're not asking
that
for.
that's required if we go with member preference.
Okay.
And that's just our general liability policy, correct me if I'm wrong. And then when we went with member preference, they said anything above that amount, we would be responsible for any amount over $850,000, which ended up being the $24,000.
No, I think, just to restate it, if I may,
Restate that.
Commissioner, if there had been any sort of a verdict in favor of the plaintiff in excess of $850,000, we would have to pay that.
I understand.
We no-caused it, so that $850,000 that they were willing to tender is something that they didn't have to tender. I agreed as part of your decision-making process, because once you didn't agree to settle, all of the costs going forward to try the case were going to be borne by the county. And those costs, obviously with expert witnesses and a federal case of this magnitude, et cetera, could be substantial. As you know from what Mr. Bott has indicated, they were substantial. So I agreed to limit my fees to $75,000, and then costs had to be picked up by the county. So what happened is that the actual fee for trying the case was $24,000 some dollars higher than the $75,000. But right now, I've capped my fee at the 75. So what was borne by the county after the county refused to go along with that settlement was a total, Dean, of
$98,697 and some change. But that included the $75,000, right?
that included the 75,000 plus costs. So it was 75,000 plus the cost, and then there's 24 some odd $1,000 out there that I've invoiced that I haven't been paid. And that's your decision what to do with
So the
that.
motion on the floor is the differential between the total amount subtracted by the 75,000.
And then ask MMRMA for reimbursement. We saved them a ton of money.
For the differential above 75,000. Okay,
For
that's the
everything.
motion.
For everything.
For everything.
For
For the-
everything. I want $99,000.
That's what I was thinking.
All right, because
I
I
want
misunderstood your motion. I misunderstood your,
$99,000 from
I
MMRMA.
misunderstood your motion. I thought it was over our
The
75,000.
99 plus the 23, so we're actually at about 120.
123. All right, thank you.
That was my clarification, because there
So
was
the
two
mo-
different things here.
Clarify the motion. The motion is the total amount. not-
Total.
All right.
Yes.
Does the motion maker second agree with that? Okay, further discussion. Commissioner Lemkool.
I think that I have a philosophical problem with some of this. We did enter into agreement with Mr. Cook, and we should honor that. The cost above it, I think we should probably try and get it out of MMRA. But the challenge that I have is that we also receive a premium discount from MMRA on a yearly basis. And which is far more than that, because we are part of a pool. And when you're part of a pool in an insurance policy, it's up to what the experience is on all of the organizations that are part of that. And so I think that this year, we're probably going to receive a premium discount or a premium rebate back far more than what we're trying to bill them here.
I think we've already gotten a report.
Yeah, $115,000.
How much
$115,000
is what we got back?
is what we're going to get back in February.
Okay, that's not going to cover that cost, so, okay. But I'm just saying is that it all enters into this whole umbrella thing when you are part of a pooled or resources, and that's why the board is the one that's responsible for these kinds of things. And the board fiscally, if you sat on that board, you're going to have to say, you are part of a pool, so therefore you're probably not going to get reimbursed. That's what I would think.
Do I have all right, I want to go with Commissioner Wheelock.
Well, I guess my comment in that regard to though, Herb, is even though we are part of a pool and we are participating in the plan, the fact here was we explained to them that this was not the right thing to do, and they kept telling us, yes, you've got to do this. We chose not to do it anyway, and in fact saved, $800,000. They should at least be willing to make us whole.
I guess my comment is that, and then we'll go to the administrator, that this does open the door for a legitimate discussion among their board members that when a county does a member preference and prevails, they have saved substantially. And maybe they should have some discussion at the board level that when a county does prevail, that they would be willing to help them out to a certain degree if they want to take that risk. I mean, that's something that maybe they should discuss. I'm saying that they're going to agree with it, but it does
If
open
we
the door
don't
for that
ask, they don't
discussion.
discuss it.
That's exactly right. So we'll go to County Administrator Benda.
I just wanted to point out, I had a discussion with the executive director and with the director of claims at about 4 o'clock this afternoon about this very subject and about a number of other things. But what they explained to me, and I kind of told them what that there was a general sense of discontent with the MMRMA as a result of, going through the member preface process. And that several commissioners felt like they weren't being supported properly. They explained to me that it may seem like a lot of money, the $850,000 that they were willing to settle, And they are elated that we prevailed.
really, that's good
But
to
their
hear.
underwriters also encourage them to make those settlements. I mean, their insurance, they have to kind of go up the scale too, and by those decisions, they make those decisions based upon not only what the other members have to deal with and what the risks are for the entire pool, but also for the insurers that are above them, looking down, saying, are you going to, gamble with our money? Are you going to give us a sure number and put it to bed? So they have their own pressures when they make those decisions. It is not a political decision. It is a risk management decision, and they have to make it that. And they've done apparently very well making those kind of decisions because they're one of the largest insurance companies in the country. They have $400 million in assets, and those are redistributed. As Chris pointed out, it's a member governing board. There are people on that board that I've worked with that work in cities and counties, and they're pretty responsible, pretty professional organization, and they do a pretty good job. So we'll ask the question, and I think we should put it in writing to them and make it official. And another thing they told us though is the $850,000 once it comes off this year, once the appeal is settled, and it comes off our liability. Right now it's got a placeholder in there that says $850,000 reserved for this case. Once it comes off, it goes into the calculations for the next net asset distribution, which means you will get a portion of that money back. So I wasn't aware of that, but they made me aware of that today. So if that's any consolation.
Just to add to Dave's comments, I want to be clear. We as a county, the board, exercised your right under our contract with MMRMA. It's member privilege, same thing, member preference, whatever. But the point I want to make is we exercised our right to do that. MMRMA did not hold us to their, settling that claim. But they are risk managers. They're not an outright flat insurance company, and they do look at loss experience. We have been with them for a very long time. They have a very good business model, and although we didn't do what they wanted us to do on this, doesn't mean that hasn't worked for us. And the net asset distributions coming back are a function of our years of membership with them, our loss experience, and depending on ultimately getting this claim off of the reserves will have a huge effect on our premiums and, as Dave said, future net asset distributions. So we've had a very good relationship with MMRMA. I agree with what's being proposed here, but we made a decision. They let us run with this, but that doesn't mean we can't have this discussion with them.
Okay, any other discussion? Commissioner Rennie.
Also, I think, Chris, I would ask you this, I guess, from their standpoint, MMRA, for us and other people that are being sued to push it, thinking they're going to get something back if they win, might change their risk assessment analysis. In other words, they don't want to get in a situation where they're telling people to appeal these things if their people that are experts say not to. So I don't think you're going to have very much luck asking for this money, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know, Commissioner Rennie. I don't know if that's if that will happen. All I know is that when you talk about risk management and risk assessment, frankly, the way that this was done, I had some real problems with the protocol that was followed and the way that it was handled. I'm not doing myself any favors by saying it, but that's my opinion about the way that it was handled. And I felt, and the reason I feel this way, and I'm willing to express it, is because I sat with Sergeant Jetter for 2 weeks, and I sat with him for a lot longer than that, prepping that case. And when the jury came back and affirmed what he had done as being the appropriate thing legally, that was a good thing for the sergeant. He's a very tough guy, but that was he had his moment, you know. And so I'm proud to say that we stood up for him, and that the board stood up for him, and that it was a catharsis for him. And that should have been taken into the equation. And that's where I felt personally that the rug got pulled out from under me and from under us as well. And I agree with everything that risk managers, I mean, I've been in the insurance industry for 30 years. I've dealt with insurance and risk managers for 30 years. And everybody approaches it differently. And there's a lot of successful organizations out there that say, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead, too. And that also is used in the right situation. It is also a way to manage risk, because then you don't get frivolous lawsuits. Then you don't get everybody suing at the drop of a hat, or anytime something bad happens out on the street involving the police, now we get sued because money's going to get paid out. See, that's the flip side of that equation. So, and I know there's probably voices on that board that, or people on that board that may listen to that, and maybe it's time somebody else hears that. So I think you're right in your final analysis, but the reason why I'm being vocal about it is because of how I felt this particular situation was handled, and from a personal perspective, as it affected Sergeant Jetter.
Well, I appreciate that input.
All right. We have a motion on the floor to send a letter to the Board of Directors and hopefully be in attendance to a meeting to deliver that letter. I understand the motion for the full amount of the amount that Grand Traverse County is being billed for this case, or has been billed for this case. And I will call for a...
Just a question.
Yes?
Can we have this letter for the Ways and Means Committee, or do we have to wait until the full board?
You can vote to direct staff to put the letter together with the amount and send it out and give us a copy. That would be fine. Is that fine with the motion maker?
That's
Second?
what I wanted to know.
All right. Is that fine with the motion maker?
Okay.
Second?
Very
Okay.
good.
All right. That clarified the motion. Roll call vote, please.
Lathrop.
Yes.
Lemkool.
Yes.
Max Bauer.
Yes.
Rennie.
Yeah.
Thomas.
Yes.
Wheelock.
Hell yes.
Yes. All right. Motion passes. So you have your directive.
That was a profanity, is what that was.
Second thing, Chris, is that we have on our agenda is that I guess I put this on here. Maybe some other commissioners had thought about it as well. With your departing from your previous employer and their agreement with MMRA and your superior performance with Grand Traverse County, especially in the Jetter case. I can only speak of myself that I would be extremely concerned that I do not want to lose your representation to Grand Traverse County in matters of civil lawsuits in defending us and giving us your recommendation and being the attorney of record if that is possible. So I guess without any discomfort levels on your part, if you could articulate, I guess, what the parameters are for your previous employer and what Grand Traverse County's options are with the possibility of maintaining your representation or other options that could be on the table, or you may not speak at all. So it's
I'll
up to
talk
you.
a little bit about it. That's
All
fine,
right.
Commissioner. Thank you. The short story is, once this letter gets written to the MMRMA asking for us, our fees to be reimbursed, I'm probably not going to be their most favorite son over there. I think it's the right thing to do, but I'll be honest, I'm probably not going to be the golden boy, having that message delivered to them. My situation, my former law firm, is I had a 1-year non-compete, which expired last month.
Okay.
So I have no contractual obligation to my former employer as far as a non-compete. I'd love to continue to represent Grand Traverse County, particularly the Sheriff's Department. I made some really close friends there, and I have highest regard for that department. And my legal assistant, Under Sheriff Alger, was invaluable. I soon learned that even though all my exhibits were very well organized, And it took me still twice as long to find an exhibit than if I asked the undersheriff to get it for me. So, in fact, I was going to let him cross-examine a few witnesses in the end. But it's a great team when it comes to a liability situation. And for me as an attorney, in that kind of a high-pressure environment, to have that support and to have somebody that knowledgeable and that tuned into the case as the undersheriff was exceedingly valuable, and it was a great support for me. So I've enjoyed developing that team, and we've been through a number of these cases together. It's not like this was our first walk in the sun. We've been through a number of these. So that's a really difficult experience to replace with somebody else, too. I will say just flat out that, and without trying to be derogatory about it, I would have some concerns in this kind of a high-pro litigation setting, going to a jury with the experience level that's currently there at CMDA. They're good attorneys, but you got to be in the fire. You got to try a few of these things to understand the way things shake out. And you don't have that experience in Northern Michigan right now. You don't. But the relationship with MMRMA is with two law firms, the CMDA law firm and the Johnson Rosati law firm, and it's been like that for years. That was the genesis of the organization, was CMDA. They were the ones who formed that insuring pool. And it's a good law firm. I'm not at all disparaging that law firm. It's a good law firm. The difficulty with then asking them to use me, you're going to get a lot of resistance. That's just, I'm not in that, in either one of those two firms. Now, I would agree to comply with all of the litigation requirements of the MMRMA, rates, reporting. That's not a problem. I've done that for 12 years. That wouldn't be a problem for me. And there are, I will say one other thing, there are other members who have attorneys that they want to work with in the litigation world, where the MMRMA has in fact allowed that relationship to exist, where it's an attorney that's not within either one of those two firms, but has allowed that attorney to represent the member in a litigation setting. I would think there'd be a lot of resistance to that. That's my thought. It would not be impossible. You'd have to approach the powers that be at the MMRMA with that. Probably you'd have to go right to the top with the executive director, Mr. Reiner, I would think. So that I'd love, another short story is I'd like to keep working as your litigation attorney in these kinds of cases. It's difficult to forecast whether or not that would be acceptable.
All right. I guess the reason I brought that up on the agenda and with and thank you for coming tonight, not only to express our appreciation for your job well done for the Jetter case, but to try to get a grip on, I guess the surrounding circumstances of is it a possibility to continue to retain you during these civil cases? And I hearing your explanation, I don't know if the board would entertain, since we're already going to write a letter to MMRA regarding the cost of defending Jetter versus Carlson, whether you would entertain the thought of creating a second letter and a second pitch to their board of directors to add Chris Cook to their list of attorneys that could be contracted for. They do have other attorneys that are listed other than those two firms that they do business with, and I do recall a conference call with Mike, what was his name? Ellis, who is a high-end representative of that organization, that said that they understood your skill level and their confidence in you, and that there are a lot of cases that they're probably going to want somebody of your caliber at the front, and that's exactly the point we made. And so that conversation didn't continue any farther than that until we knew what kind of parameters that we were in, but depending on the pleasure of the board, if you would like to suggest another motion to ask MMRA to retain Chris as an option for Grand Traverse County, I would entertain that motion. If you do not, then we will move on to the next item. Commissioner Wheelock.
Well, I think there's two separate issues here. I think the issue in regard to the reimbursement of legal fees has to go to the MMRMA board.
Yes.
I think any decision as to, for better terms, acceptable attorneys will be made by the executive director and his staff. I don't think the board makes that type of decision. I don't think it's it's kind of back to our discussion. We are a policy board. They're going to have make a policy amendment in order to pay us back money. But as far as the particular who represents member counties, I think that's going to be an executive decision. That being said, I've had more than sufficient numbers of closed sessions with Chris over the years that I've sat in this chair. And, I'm very confident in his ability and his qualifications to represent us. And, the recent one is kind of on the top of the pinnacle. Unfortunately, Chris and I haven't always agreed when the recommendation come to settle some of these nuisance things that, as far as I was concerned, were nuisance suits, but they, everybody in the room except me thought that we ought to settle them. So, with that being said, I would make a motion that we direct a letter to MMRMA asking that they designate Chris Cook as Grand Traverse County's litigating attorney.
Okay.
I'll
Is there a
second
second? Motion by Commissioner Wheelock, second by Commissioner Lathrop, to have staff prepare a letter and send out, we'll get a copy, requesting that Chris Cook be our representative regarding civil litigation issues against Grand Traverse County. Commissioner Max Bauer.
I've said this to Chris, and I think it bears repeating, and I think it's important that the public know. I will tell you, I have almost every single Perry Mason that was ever done. I have watched court TV. I have sat on 2 juries. I have never seen anyone as prepared as Mr. Cook. There was, it was, and I wish you all could have been there, really, and seen the skill. Now, I will say up front that I believe that we were in the right. And he certainly had that going for him, in my opinion. But anybody who sat in that courtroom had to have been impressed. And so I certainly support this motion.
Okay, any other discussion?
Dean has a question.
Dean.
Real quick, I know it's been a long day, but I was there for 4 days, and I know Jen Seaman was there for 1 day with me, and Chris did a great job for us. That was a first-time experience for me, but I could tell that he really, he had things in order. I didn't realize it was due primarily to the undersheriff. And I wanted to compliment the undersheriff too, because Nate put a lot of time and effort into this, and being there when the jury came back, you could feel the relief that Charlie, Sergeant Jetter and his family felt, and all of the people that were there. And Chris did do a great job for us, so I couldn't sit here and not say something. I was impressed with the work that he did for Sergeant Jetter in this county, so thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Undersheriff, would you like to speak?
If I may.
Yes.
Nate Elger, Undersheriff. I've been with Mr. Cook through 3 or 4 of these lawsuits, and it's not just the Jetter case. That was certainly very well prepared, and you will not find a better litigator in terms of presentation and preparation for trial than Mr. Cook anywhere in the area. So he has the experience to deal with these issues in federal court, and he does so very well. But the other trials that we've also gone through, it's been the same performance that I've experienced with Mr. Cook. So you didn't get this wasn't his first exposure doing a great job. He's done it in every trial or every civil case that I've been involved in. I think this board should act quickly, because we do have pending litigation that I personally would like to see Mr. Cook represent us on, if at all possible.
All right, thank you. Any other members of the public? Come on up.
Pete Cernhelt, I think if you're really trying to honor or recognize his services, I think you're limiting really what he wants. You should, rather than having him being named as counsel for cases involving Grand Traverse County, ask them to add them to their list of acceptable attorneys to represent.
That's in essence what we're trying to do, yeah.
You limit it more, I assume that's what you'd rather have.
But we got to have both.
That's good to me. Okay, I think that's what he would rather have.
Yeah. So the motion maker,
Sonny.
would that be okay that add them on the list?
Yeah, that would be
and
fine,
then-
that if we just ask MMRMA to list Chris Cook as a, do they call them member attorneys or qualified attorneys? That,
Acceptable attorney or something like that.
yeah, that's fine.
To their organization.
I have no problem with that.
Right. And second agrees with that?
I do.
All right, okay. In fact, we could probably add the two together if you don't mind.
I don't mind.
All right, okay. All right. Any other public comment? All right, roll call vote, please.
Lemkool.
Yep.
Max Bauer.
Yes.
Rennie.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yep.
Wheelock.
Yes.
Lathrop.
Yes.
Inman.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you, Chris. We have one item under closed session, Chris, that we would like to invite with the vote of the board you into, and that is, even though you are not the attorney of record regarding the appeal of Carlson versus Jetter, we would like to invite you in without objection of the board in closed session, if you could stick around.
I can.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, thank you.
Thank you for
And he
coming.
can sing, too. Do you guys know that?
Oh, yeah. I've
okay,
seen him on stage.
Yeah. Man.
That might be too much information for me tonight. It's getting late today.
So under new business, we've gone through Chris Cook, Carlson Jetter, future representation, MMRA discussion. Max Bauer, do you have anything in addition to that?
I think the administrator said it best when he spoke to MMRMA and said some commissioners are not real warm and fuzzy towards MMRMA, and I'm one of them for a number of reasons. I would like us to take a look at other risk managers. I don't know how many there are out there. I know the city uses a different one. But and maybe I'm being a little premature, but I know Dean says,
We came ready for that question.
All right.
Dean did ask the city to look at what they had, and they have MML, the Michigan Municipal League.
Right.
Which is a lot like having Max Service Corporation do they do workers' compensation, they do all kinds of things like that, purchasing programs. MML has a division in their service corporation that does liability through Meadowbrook Insurance. Last time I checked, it was Meadowbrook. And what did you find out there?
Yeah, I'm not sure who it's with, but the MML and with the city of Traverse City, who is with the Michigan Municipal League, one of the big differences is the liability coverage. The MML can go up to 10 million, but their standard liability coverage is limited to 5 million. We have a $15 million liability coverage with MMRMA. There are a few counties that are with the Michigan Municipal League. I did not have a chance to verify that they actually have insurance coverage with them. And a concern that I would have, their liability and property pool, it's a risk management pool like the MMRMA. They do write more insurance. They have 17 million in annual premiums versus 12 or 13 million compared to MMRMA, but their financial position is not as strong. They have 84 million in assets, and MMRMA has total assets of $452 million, which I think really speaks highly of, the coverage that we have with MMRMA. So I know you have concerns. One, the primary concern I think that Dave and I have is the difference in liability coverage that you would have if you went with the MML.
All right.
All right.
I'm not going to press it right now.
All right, Commissioner Thomas.
I don't think we should get too far into this discussion.
I'm not.
Until after we see
Yeah,
what the results of our letter.
All right.
Okay.
Moving on.
So that concludes that discussion, and we will move on to the ad hoc committee appointments, and then we just have a few more things to cover real quickly.
Okay.
Okay? Ad hoc committee appointments, Commission on Aging, Building Authority, and Airport Commission. Commissioner Lemkool was the chair. You have the floor.
Make a motion to appoint the Commission on Aging appointees, Building Authority appointees, and Airport Commission appointees as listed.
Support.
Okay. And is that
And that's immediate approval.
Immediate approval. All right. So we have a motion, we have support. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Rennie,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yep.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Lemkool,
Yes.
Inman.
Yes.
Second public.
Refresh my memory.
You got 2 grants right in front of you.
I understand that. Hang on. Just want to make sure I got something right here.
My
On
mother used
the,
to say half of us
on the
are here to
issue of the
feel that.
letter, on the two letters, were they immediate effect or just going to the board?
Says
Doesn't
immediate.
Immediate approval.
On both items?
That's what it says.
You did roll calls.
And roll calls on both?
Yes, roll calls on
All
both.
right, I want to double check on that. All right. Okay, roll call vote on the motion,
Nobody made
We
one.
did.
and on the ad hoc, and we got that done.
Yep.
Yes.
All right, okay. Moving on
It's late,
to,
Larry.
huh?
It's late.
I know.
You've been.
Trying to read this thing. I'm like you when you're running a board, you're trying to,
That's why I get
Larry?
paper.
all right.
There's a way of putting red marks on there?
There are? Okay, good. Second public comment.
No.
No.
We have two
We have two
additional
Oh, I'm
grants,
sorry,
Larry.
we did add those two on there.
Mr.
All right,
Chairman,
so-
I would like to move that we immediately accept the $20,000 grant for mental health services for sobriety court participants.
Is there a
Support.
second? All right. Second by Commissioner Rennie. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Roll call.
Roll
Immediate.
You want
Immediate
immediate
approval.
effect?
Immediate approval,
Roll
yeah,
call.
that's what it says.
And that's just on the 20,000?
Yep.
Rennie,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yep.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Lemkool,
Yep.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Inman.
Yes. Next one.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to accept a $100,000 grant award for the mental health program from the State Court Administrator's
Support.
Office for immediate approval.
Immediate approval. Motion maker and second agree. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote.
Thomas,
Yep.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Lemkool,
Yes.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Rennie,
Yes.
Inman.
Yes. Motion passes. I believe that concludes those two items. All right. Second public comment. Does any member of the public wish to speak at this time? Yes, Mrs. Zonhoff.
Pete. Again.
Sorry I'm so active, but I want to criticize you a little bit. On this budget, you sat there and talked about budget, you used acronyms that, I have to admit, I didn't understand what they were, about 2.5 cents, 2.5% TPO or whatever it was. Acronyms are, if everybody that is familiar with them, fine. You should say the word, what it is you mean. I didn't understand what were you talking about? I don't know.
Community police officers
Police officers.
Okay.
with the townships.
Okay. But, you didn't, if somebody had summarized what the budget was you were voting on, it would have been nice for the public to know. You guys were referring to past documents and stuff like that. So, a little criticism.
Okay.
Just, I would like to walk out of here knowing, have some sense of what you voted on, and I don't. Except that I know that you're going to invade the fund balance to some degree. You're going to try to cut back over the next months on some other things and meet with the department heads and stuff like that. But it wasn't very clear what you were voting on
Okay.
last week.
Yeah, and that's a fair criticism, and we would be happy to give you a copy of that document or any other members of the public.
It is online. It is on our
The one you voted on last time, you're talking about.
This agenda item is online.
And you can come into
it's
my
been
office
posted.
and ask for any of that, and we'll give you
Yeah,
whatever you like.
right.
So,
whatever you're looking for.
anyhow, I wish you luck on your budget. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming tonight.
We'll
Come
do
back.
it.
All right, any,
I don't know whether they can handle all of that.
Not sure we can.
don't send us a
We
legal
need your
bill
help,
either. Any other public comment? Jamel, come on. Okay. Any other public comment? We will close public comment. We will go to Commissioner Committee reports. Commissioner Lemkool.
At the Conservation District meeting on Monday night, I found out that they're changing their meeting date to the third Monday at 4:30 instead of the second Monday at 4:15. So if, Dave, if you could let Chris know on your calendars that that's what they're doing, so that we have that up to date.
All right. Any other commissioner reports? Commissioner Rennie.
Northern Lakes Community Mental Health is having tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock a kind of a Christmas session, I guess if you would call it.
How far do you have to drive?
A ways. Public invited, no charge.
Okay.
It's from 8 to 9:30 on Hall Street.
Okay, good. Commissioner
I
Thomas.
got BPW at 9 and I don't want to be late, so let's move.
Economic Development at 8.
Any other commissioner committee reports? Hearing none. Notices and announcements. Anything?
You were going to discuss dates for the budget meeting?
Pardon me?
We decided that, right?
We'll
Pardon
do
me?
that at the organization.
Yeah, the organizational meeting, we'll discuss the budget meeting. Hearing no notices and announcements, we need to go into closed session.
Motion to,
And we need to repeat the purposes of the closed session, Mr. Administrator.
Sure. The purpose is to discuss pending litigation regarding the Carlson versus Jetter appeal,
Yes?
to discuss pending litigation, another case, another case of pending litigation, and a closed session on negotiations, so that we can update commissioners on what the status is of
All right,
negotiations.
we have a motion on the floor for that effect.
Do we expect action when we come out?
They're looking at
Wake
each
Jen up
other.
and ask.
Do we expect action when we come out of closed session on our? No.
Can you,
it's okay.
Said that.
We got to have those things prepared.
you need to indicate the case on the other case.
It's on the Alpers case versus the county.
All right. Need a motion.
Oh, you got one.
Motion
We
by
have a motion
Thomas.
and a second.
Second. Roll call vote.
Is that a second by Wheelock?
Yes.
Sure.
Somebody.
The answer for him.
Wheelock.
Yes, ma'am.
Lathrop.
Yes.
Lemkool.
Yes.
Max Bauer.
Yes.
Rennie.
Yeah.
Thomas.
Yes.
Inman.
I should
Yes.
say no.
Okay, we're going into closed session, and we're going to invite Chris Cook for one of the items on the
Lost. Either my.
Jetter versus
I was noticing.
Yes.
the Jetter appeal.
I don't know where it is. How do you get another zero?
I bet you can get over it.
I don't know how it happens.
They pop off. They just do sometimes. It's just weird. If you use it a lot.
I hardly ever use it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, hardly ever. I usually type on the keyboard.
11, right.
Pad?
Well, that's it, on the pad.
Yeah.